multitudes of people began to ridicule iDubbbz for continuing to be with her, as she explicitly sexualized herself for strangers.
Well, I guess that is boobies there.
About a month later, Anisa uploaded a video where she criticized feminism.
Hey guys, I know you thought I was like a useless before, but hey, now I'm like on your side.
I just want to ask him if you've always been shitting your pants.
I think she just really says this stuff to be cruel.
You were shitting on the most like right-wing content creators of that era. Maybe not like officially.
I love this. Hey, back in the day when you were like super edgy, you were still a really positive influence. How do you think that shakes iDubbbz?
It is not strictly a benefit to be as open as possible on your podcast.
Maybe this is his way of telling Anisa that she's got to stop. Please, people are making fun of me for pee-pee myself.
Ian probably thought that this documentary would be an easy dunk on a guy who was widely known for having his show canceled for being overtly far-right.
iDubbbz has the secret talent of just revitalizing people's careers after he makes hit pieces on them. Ethan, I need you to sue Ian and Anisa so in Discovery we can see her messages between them. You guys win. Turkey Tom video. Wow, I can't believe this beat the Act Man video. Anyway, I'm curious about it. He released it like yesterday or something. Yeah, it was yesterday. I haven't seen Tom in a while. I know he was a little ingrained in the slop for a while, but he seems to have stopped and just focused on Fallen Chungus Artist. That's a crazy title. He seems to have just kind of focused on content again. I guess he doesn't like doing the whole public square thing. So, yeah, God bless him. But anyway, it's called The Decay of iDubbbz, 5 Years of Failure. Actually, a little bit adjacent to the slop, because this is slop. But I'm curious about it, so let's get going.
2010's YouTube. In mid-2010's YouTube, no name was more respected than iDubbbz, who, through his content cop videos, became the executioner of content creators. Leafy, Rice Gum, The Fine Bros, Tana Mojo, Keemstar, you name them, and he either successfully glassed their online careers or severely damaged their reputation. So much so that many of his targets aren't even remembered.
Who the fuck's that guy?
Fast forward just a few years, and he's debased himself to the point where anyone can take a shot at him free of consequences.
Yeah, kind of true, man. Again, I mean, I don't know his legacy, but again, him simply making a video about Ethan Klein made people like Ethan Klein again. That's it. I like Ethan. I was, you know, always generally on his side throughout this whole thing. But like, without iDubbbz's hit piece against Ethan, people would have still been more anti-Ethan. He fucking ruined it. Everything for Hassan and his crew.
As hard as it is to understand how an outsider to the influencer sphere was embraced by the public as their judge, it's even harder to understand why he chose to self-destruct in such a pitiful way. Unlike many people whose demise comes as they fall out of mainstream appeal and get tangled up in controversy, iDubbbz was the opposite. He diligently grew his audience by engaging in the most vile and offensive antics imaginable.
It's crazy because I watched him a little bit. Because I was Ethan Klein adjacent back in the day. I used to watch Ethan Klein videos because my friend Rich showed me Ethan. And then I started watching like really just the bad unboxing and the Kickstarter crap videos. I never was into like all like the super online stuff. It's so funny. And like, I understand being like, hey, I don't want to be as edgy anymore and making like a meaningful, reasonable change. But he like hard backtracked on his shit to like such an insane degree, like just so pathetically over corrected. It's insane. It's wild.
Say Nick.
Hey! I got nervous that he was actually going to play it, which would made no sense. But I still got nervous that he was going to fucking play the whole thing. Holy fuck.
I'm gay. Oh, it's a single piece of paper that says Nick.
Everyone type Alex the stupid.
I could honestly go on and on compiling clips of that sort because those were his bread and butter. And he wasn't only liked for it, he was loved for it. A good comparison, which will become pretty apt when we get to their falling out, is H3H3, who used to do a similar kind of content where he dunked on low-hanging fruit targets, sometimes going as far as to make fun of cringy kids. However, H3 simultaneously
We did that on TikTok a little bit here and there, guys.
Did serious attempts at calling out situations he saw as injustices, not only on YouTube, but in general, pivoting away from content that was just meant to be comedic and trying to legitimize himself as a social commentator by punching up. As this pivot gradually took place, H3 decidedly became part of the greater community, and for the most part, became a lot less controversial, at least for a while. Meanwhile,
if anything, he's probably more controversial now. I feel like he's almost always been more controversial, only because I just feel like even when he was saying things that would be considered more controversial, he was still like liked. I mean, he was still kind of middle ground when it comes to like the internet perspective. Does that make sense? So, but we moved so quickly socially that I think people are like, oh my God, Ethan used to say such insane shit. But it's like, for the time, he was saying normal stuff, frankly. A little, like, that's just kind of where we were. Everybody enjoyed it. So I think that these guys beat themselves up a little too much for like their past controversies. It's actually fucking bizarre.
iDubbbz brazenly made fun of anyone,
But I guess we've always been there, overcorrecting sometimes.
who wandered into his crosshairs, whether they were disabled,
My name is Pisces Sakono, and I'm here to say, you iDubbbz!
You know, I'll say, like, it seems like maybe iDubbbz, I don't know about Ethan, but maybe these guys, that's what they should be apologizing for more than anything else. No offense. So they're always so focused on like, oh, we used to say the N-word. Like, yeah, that's bad. But like, what about them potentially having started the entire harassment chain for fucking disabled people on the internet? Like, there's a bunch of disabled people on the internet who don't act perfectly, who clearly have like pretty significant intellectual or developmental disabilities that require them where they should be in like a group home setting. They should be off the streets. They shouldn't really have like social media interaction. And people relentlessly bully them into acting even worse. And then in some instances, even getting them to leave their group home setting, which is the only thing like that's good for society. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we should get an apology for that. Because I feel like, I'm no offense, I think that the entire like hardcore harassment campaign on like locals with intellectual developmental disabilities is significantly worse than saying the N-word. I don't know. I'm just being real with you. I think it might be a little bit worse. So maybe you guys should apologize for that if you're going to apologize for anything. That was Leafy, not iDubbbz. Okay, maybe it wasn't iDubbbz. I was just, you know, taking this. I mean, maybe it was both. Let's be fucking real. I mean, if this is one of the things that's going on, but either way, I think that there's kind of might be an argument there. You know, maybe I'm wrong.
or schizos.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Schizophonic TV. This is Lou Sick Diamond Eyes.
Dude, he literally
What the fuck?
cannot help the beatboxing. It's like his Tourette's.
None of it mattered. No target was too low. No joke was too offensive. And he didn't just do it, but he was also good at justifying it.
Straight off the bat, I want to let all the newcomers to my channel know that I'm perfectly fine with bullying. Make fun of someone because they're fat, autistic, or riddled with acne. I don't care. Make fun of them. I think my only stipulation with the bullying is that you also have to not be a pussy. But you can't say that one because it's got sort of a... it's guttural. Either all of them are okay or none of them are okay. It's either all okay or none of it's okay.
Like, this is obviously, like, I would say kind of a... he's probably talking about the N-word. This is obviously going to be like a stupid take. You know, but I mean, you could just apologize for the bad takes and not fucking completely demonize everything you ever did.
All of this really set iDubbbz at a different class from people who were just simply edgy for the sake of it, or because they were looking to grift off of a more edgy, or in some cases, more conservative audience. Up until 2020, iDubbbz was one of the few people who stuck true to his original audience, without diluting it or trying to have his fan base admire him parasocially. He made very funny, even if offensive, YouTube videos, without dumbing down his content or engaging in unnecessary drama, something most people would see as integrity. But as the decade approached its end, there were some signs that the times were changing. Ian's uploads not only slowed down, but they became much more vague in theme. His tried and true formats like Bad Unboxing and Content Cop increasingly gave way to casual iDubbbz complains videos or things like the fast food tier list. Granted, even...
which, by the way, I don't even think is a bad thing. Making your content... because this is what I feel like probably happened, because it happened to me a little bit too when I was on TikTok, because I got a little big for a while. You start out always like you're well-intentioned, you're making some shit, maybe it's a very progressive time, and you're kind of dunking on some of the annoying libs that feel a little too emboldened by the times. You know, that's what 2020 was. You make more and more content. As time goes on, things start to settle. You start to get more opinions, where like maybe you realize you're being a little cringed by going after some of the people you're going after, even if they kind of deserve it. Like maybe your attention could be better spent, and then you just slowly like soften up a little bit, become a little more empathetic, and then your opinions change, and you know, yada 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 yada. Right? I kind of feel like that, and then sometimes maybe you overcorrect. I feel like that's not like an unheard of direction to go into, but
even in this slightly reduced form, he still managed to post videos like his documentary on Airsoft Fatty, Full Force, which now sits at nearly 20.
Then also you want to start finding a little more meaning in your content, maybe. You know, you're getting a little older, you want a little more meaning than just like some low effort fucking dunks on like idiots, and you're trying to figure out how to like fit that in. And yeah, I get that. I understand it.
25 million views. But if you were an avid viewer and you paid attention to the tone of the jokes, there was a vibe shift underway, although no one could predict how devastating its ultimate consequences would be. You see, all the way back in 2016, at what was safely iDubbbz's peak in online hype, he began dating fellow content creator Anisa Johma. By merit of clicking on this video, you probably know who Anisa is from her current online infamy. But long before that, she was a small League of Legends streamer under the alias Rainbow Kids.
It's always League of Legends are Dead by Daylight, guys. What's up with that?
Although that description hardly tells the whole story. In March 2016, Anisa's first big claim to fame came in the way of a video titled A Day in the Life of a Booby Streamer, which racked up hundreds of thousands of views in a matter of months. Although it's no longer available, the title is pretty self-explanatory. And it was released at a point in time where booby streamers were taking their first steps toward the full-fledged domination of certain streaming platforms through trends like hot tub streams. Just by looking at the videos recommended on the side, you can figure out that this was Anisa's hustle at the time, with channels like Sexy Gamer Girls or Cute Twitch Girls uploading clips of her streams where she did risque things, as well.
Did she show her boobies?
As commentary channels of the time criticizing the kind of content she made. But despite her already being somewhat...
Well, I guess that is boobies there. You know, here's my thing. I have no problem with people like flaunting their assets or whatever, but I mean, I think I will say that like if your whole thing is going to be just constantly flaunting your assets and not trying to generate any audience over any other aspect, like, and then you get mad at guys for like, or people on the internet for being like, hey, is this all that women do? I mean, wouldn't you to some degree maybe be part of the problem? You know, it's like, why do people only see women as boobs on the internet? And then like you're a boob internet person. It's kind of tough, you know? It's kind of tough there. It's a tough take.
Infamous for sexualizing herself at the time, her day in the life video was attached to an announcement.
Like I could see it if it's like a regular woman that's just like trying to do regular content and they're like, hey, it's kind of fucked up. Like, I'm a intelligent woman. I make intelligent commentary. Or something, and people are sexualizing me. Like, that's fucked up. But then you got like the OnlyFans girls that are like, why are you always sexualizing us? And it's like, bro, come on. You know? What are you doing?
That she'd be moving away from that kind of content, which she later clarified through a series of Reddit posts. This public pivot got so much traction that it earned itself an article on Kotaku, where Anisa actually contributed and gave a quote. I would play ranked games on stream, and I would lose every single one because I was just so focused on the fact that my straps on my push-up bra were digging into my shoulders, and I would look over at chat, and like every second comment is calling me a slut and a whore. It's just not fun for me anymore. I'm not saying that it's wrong to do this. If you are a female and you feel sexy doing this, all the power.
Well, I agree that people shouldn't be harassing them for doing it, you know? It's one thing for you to be like, oh, I don't like this. It's like whatever, but to harass people calling them a whore and a slut, I think is obviously wrong. But
to you, I just wanted to explain to everybody why I personally am sick and tired of doing this, not comfortable doing this, nor do I feel like it's right for me to do this. Despite this article focusing on how merciless and toxic the community could be, Anisa's decision was met with plenty of support, with people saying they preferred her non-sexual content. Other people, like Brittany Venti, immediately cast doubt on the sincerity of Anisa's pivot, claiming her content hadn't changed as much as she suggested it would. However, the clips that were shown as proof of the content not changing weren't really hard-hitting evidence, as they consisted of Anisa showing off a t-shirt and walking around in her room, a far cry from her extremely sexualized streams from before. About a month later, Anisa uploaded a video where she criticized feminism.
I don't feel
why? The fuck?
Like I need to be a part of a movement in where I can dye my hair blue and become 500 pounds overweight and
damn, what the fuck? Damn, she did all the anti-woke shit too.
Claim that I'm still beautiful. Like I don't get it. And I'm not saying that I disagree with what feminism actually is. I'm not saying that I disagree with what you know, the OG movement of what feminism is. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that you can't even like claim to support feminism anymore without it leaving a bad taste in people's mouths because of third wave feminism.
This kind of video was pretty common around that time, with huge content creators like Shoe on Head making similar content, both in format and theme. Regardless of how on the rise criticizing feminism was at that point, Anisa didn't seem like she was being dishonest or grifting, especially since she
she might have just been aware of like the social narrative around it, and so she was like, oh shit, I can make some money being a pick-me girl. I don't know.
Continued to make those points even after it clearly didn't net her any popularity. Later on, she slightly disavowed the whole anti-SJW movement, but didn't overall change her opinions, signaling that they weren't just a product of being influenced by other people.
What are your thoughts towards SJWs? I feel like this, the SJW thing has kind of just been beaten to a pulp at this point. I think that anybody that's on any extreme point of anything.
Well, I don't know. I mean, listen, maybe I'm being cynical, but I could see it making sense as a content strategy for somebody who used to do OnlyFans and like basically sexualize themselves on the internet constantly to beg for the validation of anti-woke people who hate feminism. It would make sense for somebody like that to gravitate towards that, to like beg for their attention. It's like, hey guys, I know you thought I was like a fucking useless whore before because I did OnlyFans, which I don't think that she is, but that's what they thought about her. But hey, now I'm like on your side. Like, actually, you know, I do think that the fucking feminism is crazy and cringe, blah, 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 you know? So it's like kind of shitty because she was kind of the ammunition for those people to bully women. And then the second that it became convenient for her, she decided to just swap instantaneously to the other side. So it kind of is strange, maybe even cowardly, honestly.
Is wrong.
In July, a month before her and iDubbbz started dating, she made a video giving dating advice for men, where she provided a...
Which maybe, I mean, listen, now we're getting a conspiracy brain, but like maybe that's why she gravitated towards iDubbbz, because it's like, oh, maybe iDubbbz can remove some of the negative energy to me or something. I don't know. Want to date me? Incredible.
Mind-bending amount of foreshadowing for the rest of the story.
I have dated a lot of dudes. I will not lie to you. Nice guys do finish last. I wish that...
You mean like they come last?
I could, you know, meet a nice guy who is right away emotionally available and committed and just be like, holy shit, I want to date you forever. But there's something about it that is an extreme turnoff for a lot of women. In my opinion...
Well, so women are not turned off by nice guys. Women are turned off by boundaryless guys, right? Women don't like a guy who can't set a boundary. That's the problem. So it's like, it's one thing to be nice. It's another thing to be boundaryless. It's also another thing to be nice as your strategy. And there are also plenty of people who are just nice as their strategy, which is also another problem. Like if you're just like pretending to be nice, so like a woman will want to fuck you or something, like that's also problematic for you, right? That's another issue. So you have to be like genuinely nice and not just be somebody who's very transparently just like trying to get fucking women. So you're like your content strategy, what the hell's wrong with me? So your strategy is like, oh, I'm gonna pretend to be a nice guy. So there's like just so many different aspects to it.
When a man opens himself up emotionally fully and
also their booty hole so that you can peg them. That's another thing she likes apparently.
Commits fully. It is essentially like a woman
it actually died?
Sleeping with a man. It's on the same level of like giving. But if a girl slept with you on the first date, chances are you wouldn't be very interested in having an actual relationship. If you give a woman your full emotional availability, they will take it for granted. And they will not value it to the same extent that they should. And by not valuing it, they will also not respect you to the same extent that they should. And that...
What is she talking about?
If a girl slept with you on the first date, chances are you wouldn't be very interested in having an actual relationship.
Sure.
If you give a woman your full emotional availability, they will take it for granted.
There's just a lot going on there. Maybe they might. It depends on what does that mean. If you completely emotionally dump onto a woman the first time you meet them, you're a pussy, and women aren't gonna like that. But if you like gradually let them in the same way that you, I guess, would gradually get comfortable with sleeping with them, that's fine. I don't. Okay.
And they will not value it to the same extent that they should. And by not valuing it, they will also not respect you to the same extent that they should. And that opens you up for disinterest and, in worst case scenario, abuse. Because you will be abused if you're not respected. It's just the way it is. Being a nice guy means that you're a selfless human being and you want to put others in front of you. And I know it's extremely hard, but it's something that if you just throw yourself at that person, chances are you're not going to get out of the relationship what you want.
Sure. I mean, I think that there's a lot of words being said that may not necessarily that are very open to interpretation, but like in general, you just shouldn't open yourself up for full availability to somebody that you just met, whether it's sexually, emotionally, physically, etc., etc. But
a lot of guys, if you find a woman that you think is
how would I change my
worth
Fowler
your time
phone?
and you think is interesting and you think is deserving of the world, you will immediately put them on a pedestal and think that they deserve everything. And it has happened to me before, and as soon as you put that woman on a pedestal, you are asking for trouble, especially in the gift market. Things that are just instant turnoffs for women: crying. A good rule of thumb: if she is not crying, you should not be crying. Period. It shows overall emotional weakness, and later on in life, you wonder how they're going to handle serious, actual, legitimate issues.
Well, she's a kid here. I'm assuming she's very young here. I mean, it's okay to sometimes cry around your partner. As a man, it's, I would say, generally less acceptable, at least in a more traditional relationship. But you know, I've cried before with my wife. I've gotten upset before with stuff, much more rarely than she does. It's okay to cry sometimes if it's like justifiable, you know. But all right.
Crying at really.
I'm trying to figure out what happened when I died. No,
stupid shit is a really good way to make a girl not like you really fast.
It truly fills one's mind with contemplation to see her saying this stuff.
How old is she here?
Knowing how it all ends. In the same month as this was published, another Kotaku piece went up, this time reporting on the fact that Anisa's mother, Maureen, was one of the moderators in her Twitch chat. Interestingly enough, here it's mentioned that both of Anisa's parents
Her mom was the moderator? What the fuck?
are quite conservative and religious, and despite being quite protective over her, Maureen was respectful of her wishes to let the chat come at her and only moderate when things got super out of hand. According to her, Anisa wasn't hurt by anything said online, as she
yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Didn't take it seriously and understood people were just trolling. In January 2017, a few months into her relationship with Ian, Anisa did an AMA wherein she spoke about how their relationship began, explaining they met after TwitchCon 2016 and immediately hit it off and never stopped talking to each other. On the surface, this seemed completely innocuous, but even at this point, some things didn't add up. Although she doesn't at all mention this in her AMA for obvious reasons, not only did she have a boyfriend when she invited Ian to hang out after TwitchCon, her boyfriend—
Damn, she had a fucking boyfriend? That's kind of shitty. Did she just go off after somebody she thought would be more like successful and better? That's fucked up, man. What the fuck?
Went with her to TwitchCon and only broke up with him a week later. Additionally, another aspect of the timeline here that was broken later on is that Anisa went on to claim she was still a booby streamer by the time the two got together, which is verifiably untrue. While it is small, these establish a
they're not that small.
Pattern of slightly bending the truth whenever it's convenient to do so. Just like her relationship with Acadian, within a year of being with Ian, she was telling random people on her Discord server that they weren't doing well. And not only were they close to breaking up, but they'd already previously experienced a relationship scare.
Damn. Pregnancy? I remember when my wife and I used to watch Game of Thrones before we got, like, when we first started dating, and once that was like over, we were like confused what we should do with each other. Isn't that crazy?
At the same time, Anisa was both privately and publicly signaling she was becoming closer to YouTuber Chris Raygun, saying,
damn, another femboy.
He'd be more willing to defend her from online hate than Ian.
I'm not trying to be that guy, but like, I mean, is the conspiracy true though? Like the conspiracy, I was like, oh, maybe she's just trying to be with this person to get rid of like some criticism against her. That's fucking crazy. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, you know, well, I mean, part of it could just be that like he's not, you know, super open to defending her as much as she wanted him to. Like he's not acting like a man, or you can interpret it as she was just looking for a shield. I don't know, like a beard, but not for gay.
With these things being discussed online, Anisa was becoming increasingly disliked. And however gratuitous some of it may be, she really put in an effort to say insanely bad stuff in public for seemingly no reason.
Lion Maker, whatever his name was accused of pedophilia. Like, it gave me a lot of anxiety because I feel like a lot of it is based on a lot of fiction and not a lot of fact. And like, if the person really isn't as bad as people think it is, which most of the time they're not, then you're just watching people rip apart somebody that—
I mean, wasn't Lion Maker like legitimately bad? This take would make sense to me from her though, a little bit, only if she's getting a bunch of hate online that she doesn't feel like is deserved. It makes sense that she would have this take because her first instinct is to be like, okay, people talk a lot of shit about me that I think is wrong, so whatever's happening against this person is also probably wrong.
That maybe doesn't deserve it as much as, like, I don't know. It's just
What the hell's happening with this filter?
sad seeing somebody get ripped apart.
Simultaneously, her content was floundering. You see, Anisa's videos around this time were focused on things like her suffering from body dysmorphia and anorexia, her negative experience with sending nudes, her fitness journey, how Instagram models are deceptive, all of which kind of echoed the same.
Oh, he went to prison too. Yeah, he might be a little guilty.
Same theme, handling her insecurity with her appearance, and how the need for validation from strangers can lead to compulsive, self-destructive behavior. Then, in March 2020, she made an OnlyFans. I can't really say enough to highlight the irony.
Damn, seems like she's always gravitating back towards the, you know, the simp baiting, I guess you'd call it.
Of this, so I hope it's self-evident. Overnight, the undercurrent of people who were aware of Anisa's existence and disliked her suddenly became mainstream, as multitudes of people began to ridicule both Anisa for joining OnlyFans and iDubbbz for continuing to be with her, as she explicitly sexualized herself for strangers for money. To be fair, this feeding frenzy for trolls only really reached a fever pitch after iDubbbz made a video about the situation.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have done that, but
wherein he claimed his audience simply didn't know him well enough if they ever assumed he'd have a...
I don't know. She said, she did mention that, and I'm just speculating here, so, you know, forgive me, but she did mention that, like, he was the first, and she talks about how, like, he stinks and has bad breath and he's smelly and stuff. So do you think that one of the, I mean, like, I would imagine the motivation of going back to OnlyFans is like, fuck it, I can make money, people are being assholes to me anyway, whatever. But do you think that there's a potential motivation that she wasn't feeling sexually satisfied through iDubbbz, and so, like, this is her, maybe this was the way that she feels more valid or justified in cheating? I think there's something to that narrative as well. I wonder. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that that is what it is, but I mean, from the way that she talks about him and talks about how, like, he stinks and all this other stuff, especially at that time, it seemed that it was around that time. Do you think that there'd be a part of it that was that? Oh.
A problem with not safe for work material. The thing is, he kind of sidesteps the point, which isn't adult material itself, but the fact that his girlfriend was making it. For the majority of people, even just consuming that kind of thing while in a relationship is bad. So one would...
I don't think... Well, is it? Oh, I guess OnlyFans. Yeah, I was just thinking like regular porn. I don't know, I wouldn't let my wife do OnlyFans, or I wouldn't accept that, and she wouldn't accept me doing it. Unless it was for gay guys. I could do it for gay guys, yes. Should I?
Would imagine that when Anisa proposed posting explicit images online for any stranger to engage with, that idea wouldn't even be considered tolerable, let alone actively supported.
And I think all of it is cool.
You think it's cool?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I understand not wanting to give into, like, the extreme toxicity around, like, harassing OnlyFans girls. That's fine. But to think it's cool that your wife or girlfriend does OnlyFans, I think that's so... It's just, you know, unfortunately, people are just going to look at you like you're not a real man. I wouldn't be cool with my fucking wife doing that. And, like, you know, if you are, it just definitely comes off to me as, like, a cope. I don't even think he believes himself.
I know.
Whoa, what's up, Ryan Beard? I haven't seen you in a while, brother. How you doing?
Oh, I didn't think it would be a controversial opinion either. A good amount of people are just doing the reasonable thing and just making jokes and laughing about it.
Some people are crying warm white tears, though.
But there's a whole nother group of people who feel personally devastated and betrayed. You lied to us.
To play a bit of devil's advocate here, the debate gets heavily sidetracked by people saying he was a hypocrite, which doesn't really apply since Ian hadn't ever expressed being against it on a moral level. But while accusations of him being a hypocrite or a simp miss the mark, obviously the average person is going to have a problem with sending nudes to other people while in a relationship and find it objectionable. Whether it's...
Ethan, I need you to sue... Oh, fuck, Ryan, you died. I'm so sorry. I love you. Ethan, I need you to sue Ian and Anisa so in Discovery we can see her messages between other men, because I have a sneaking suspicion that she was using OnlyFans as a way to, like, almost cheat on iDubbbz because she wasn't sexually saatified in her relationship. I know that's a speculation, and I'm sorry if it's too speculative, and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be crazy, but I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't know.
It's to one person or to your parasocial gooner army. He makes a point here about how someone cranking it to your girlfriend doesn't affect you and wouldn't constitute cheating.
But I forget where Belle is.
Not exactly comparable to your significant other actively inviting people to do it. Lastly, Ian remarks that this decision wasn't Anisa stooping to that level for money, but again, her own Discord messages show that she strongly resented not getting enough attention.
I feel like my content was good, but the numbers aren't there. That's how I feel about my content sometimes, but that's just kind of the game, man. You know, you got to just keep on keeping on.
And not making enough money online. Even during the period, she was already with him and didn't technically need to make a living. Anisa herself admits that the financial reward of doing OnlyFans was extremely important for her and went toward helping her family. So that
wasn't she married to iDubbbz? Well, I mean, I can fundamentally respect somebody wanting to work for their own money. Like, I get that, and wanting to still do something. And like my wife doesn't necessarily want to quit because she wants to, you know, she likes being a career woman, or she likes working a job and stuff. So I can respect that. I don't know. It could have been a better field. Maybe do more content creation, but if most of her content centralized around her showing off her body, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that's fine, but like, it just seemed like she wanted to do something else, and then she went back to it, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, man. You know, I just don't know. I just feel like there's maybe something better that you could do, or maybe like it seems more like she wants to be known for other stuff, but like simply put, she couldn't crack it, and that's the problem with her.
Absolutely was a factor. The thing is, 3 years prior, Ian had offered to pay for her to go to college, meaning she could have done something else to make money, but instead opted to do OnlyFans. Why?
Probably because she didn't want to put the effort in, but that's fucking great. That's generous of him.
Well, it's all but made explicit that Ian's attention wasn't enough for her, as she admittedly wanted attention from strangers online.
Oh shit, did I really call it?
Even if it came from terminal gooners. Oddly, in her video about it, Anisa's stance on the wave of hate they got once this situation erupted was—
well, I mean, even the hate can sometimes be almost like addicting, because it's attention, you know? So maybe she liked that she got any level of attention from even like getting trolled on the internet for making porn, you know?
Is that she didn't care about other people's view of her. The thing is, you can't really have it both ways, and clearly validation from online strangers does matter to her. Otherwise, what's the point of posting her pictures online? You could say money, but again—
well, even negative validation could be some kind of validation for her.
Ian himself offered her alternatives years before, and she turned it down. What's rarely highlighted when this topic is covered is that Anisa's OnlyFans is directly related to her often discussed issues with her body image. However much Ian and her try to pretend that posting not safe for work content is empowering or is somehow healing her. Regardless of how you feel about it morally, I strongly doubt that showing whole online is the cure for a mental illness.
I don't know. Here's my thing. I want to say this delicately and nicely. I don't understand why there are so many OnlyFans girls out there. Or maybe that's not how I want to say this. It's interesting to me that there are some OnlyFans girls who will do OnlyFans, and then you will see their physical appearance spiral into such a bizarre direction. And I'm not trying to be fucking rude, but like, part of me thinks that you hate yourself if you are making OnlyFans content and you're like really comfortable expressing yourself as like, you know, very female expression, and then over time you start to make yourself more masculine. Because to me, and then even in some instances, like identify as like non-binary, because to me, what I'm hearing is you hate sexualizing yourself a lot, and you have a lot of distress associated with that, and it makes you want to turn away from being a woman in some capacity. Because that's what I see with Anisa. You see her at the start, she's very feminine, and she's doing OnlyFans, and like now she looks very masculine, and it makes me feel like you hate your femininity because you associate your femininity with doing OnlyFans, and you probably don't feel good presenting your body like that. Because you see a lot of people do that. At least I've seen. There's other, I don't want to be specific, but there's like a girl on TikTok who started doing OnlyFans, and they spiraled insanely from like being very feminine presenting to sexualizing themselves, and then like, oh, I'm non-binary now. And I think that for them, and I'm not trying to invalidate non-binary people, I think for them, these individuals specifically, their non-binary identification comes with them hating their feminine side, because they've used their feminine side to sexualize themselves to make money, and now they're trapped in it because they make a living doing it, and that's like the only way of life that they can do right now. The only difference is with Anisa is that like she could have went to college and she has a rich husband, or maybe she's not rich anymore, I don't know. But hey, you know, maybe that's just all speculation.
If it is, I'm looking forward to the OnlyFans and BetterHelp partnership in the future. While OCD and BDD aren't necessarily tied to sexualizing yourself, there is a condition called histrionic disorder, which is. Other symptoms include compulsive oversharing about one's private life, even to the point of embarrassing friends or family, dressing in a provocative manner for attention, being strongly opinionated about things they don't know much about, being easily influenced by peers and emulating them, and the list goes on. Given that this condition typically manifests in girls in their early 20s, right around the time Anisa became.
I remember when I had like my own like joking OnlyFans where I would just paint my stomach. Where like even I felt a little like, oh man, this is like objectifying me. So I can't imagine what an actual porn person does and how they feel about their content.
A booby streamer, there may be some reason for concern. But regardless of Anisa's issues, even after this pivot, Ian was developing his own problems. In 2021, Ian's new documentary was recorded, wherein he spent a few days with comedian Sam Hyde. But the actual contents of it weren't—
I think he was trying to dunk on Sam. Kind of owned him on that.
—seen until early 2022, when Sam, allegedly due to not getting any communication from iDubbbz for months and growing frustrated due to having spent 15 grand on it, became suspicious that Ian wouldn't release it at all, and released the footage he had gotten. Over nearly 2 hours of video, it's revealed that most of, if not all of that 15 grand Sam mentioned had been spent hiring actors and renting things in order to create the appearance of a bizarre lifestyle.
That's fucking crazy because Sam Hyde is a legitimate white supremacist, but he did kind of own, he did break iDubbbz, he did kind of own him there.
For example, a paid actress played the part of Sam's cracked out girlfriend, with him verbally abusing her and drinking her breast milk. To go over each and every one of the hundreds of little gaslighting pranks Sam and his crew ran on Ian would take a long time, so hopefully that one example is enough to represent them. However, the actual moment where Sam reveals to Ian that most of what he experienced in the first couple of days there was just an elaborate prank isn't actually in Sam's footage, and it would only appear a month later when Ian uploaded his version of the documentary.
I'm curious about your relationship with Danny. Has she been on drugs since she met you?
She's been on drugs since before she met me. So if you're implying that I've driven her to drug use, you are incorrect.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's what I wanted to sort of get out of the way.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Have you tried to get her any help?
No, seeing as she's a girl I paid $500 to shave her head and pretend to be my girlfriend, no, I haven't tried to get her any help. Should you want me to try?
Wait, okay.
I don't know her that well. It's probably not my business to get her off drugs. Also, I think I told her to put her hand in your pocket and pretend to be on drugs.
Okay, so stupid.
Shut up.
You think are you serious? You think I would date a girl?
Bro, if he would have just taken this meme like on the chin, I think he would have been in such a better spot.
Has her hair shaved like that?
Yes.
You think I'm a mental case?
Yes.
You think I would spill rock stars and Legos all over my office like a animal and have 20 people in a dentist's office? You know this is a converted dentist's office, right? That's why there's like paintings of like whales on the walls and Ian, you silly guy.
So you're punking me?
I'm not punking you. I'm trying to make a. I thought it'd be funny for your fans. I thought they'd like it. Also,
they probably would have if you just took the joke well.
Slingshots are rental.
We did get duped by Sam. We didn't get pranked in quite the way we thought we were going to get pranked. It's not easy to say that I'm like happy with the conclusion because I'm still wondering kind of what's real and what's fake.
Given Ian had the documentary ready to go within a month of Sam's video, it's unlikely that he had decided against making it all together for the past year and slapped it together as a reaction to Sam uploading the footage he had. However, that doesn't change the fact—
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
—that neither party was fully transparent with their intentions and plans for the documentary. Obviously, to some extent.
Well, I think but the general understanding was that iDubbbz was trying to make it to dunk on Sam, and that Sam got him first, you know?
And it must have been Sam's intention to disturb and make Ian look like a fish out of water with no chance to see through the facade. But at the same time, Ian's approach to the documentary was clearly meant to be uncharitable. He wasn't making some unbiased gonzo journalism attempt to capture the strange life of a controversial alternative comedian. He was, in his own way, trying to make Sam look bad. This becomes perfectly clear in perhaps the most dreaded section of this entire documentary, the circle of irony.
This is why it's so difficult to be around Sam. try to understand him, and ultimately make a documentary about him. He lives here. Sam is drenched in meta-irony constantly. He intentionally doesn't make it obvious when he is or isn't joking about something.
Well, yeah, isn't that his whole shtick, though?
Why he does this is up for interpretation, I guess.
Probably because he thinks it's funny.
But after seeing how much he appears to involve himself in political ideologies, it seems he prefers to use meta-irony as a shield.
Here, Ian spent...
He's probably right, honestly. iDubbbz is actually probably right here.
Spends around 5 minutes doing an ironically roundabout explanation of how Sam and people like him only pretend to be ironic when they say extremely right-wing things to avoid suffering any consequences.
He's probably right about that, to be absolutely real. I mean, again, Sam Hyde is a legitimate white supremacist. Like, I watched the video where he was criticizing Elon Musk for supporting H-1B visas. It was fucking insane. All right, he was saying some wild shit about how America is supposed to be a white Christian country. And everybody's like, no, he's just kidding. It's like, he's obviously very serious. You can use jokes as vehicles, which most people do, right? So...
But if you're at all familiar with Sam's non-sketch content, whether it be his earlier Hyde Wars episodes, or if you happen to be active on the now-defunct $1 Million Extreme subreddit, where Sam frequently posted through his Reddit account, Sam has no issue copping to being genuinely right-wing, and especially no issue with being framed as such. As a matter of fact, he seems to find it funny. For example, when a BuzzFeed journalist reached out...
Well, because he is.
Sam to ask about his social media bans, he simply responded with a racial slur. And I swear there was a screenshot of this, but I couldn't find it. The point being, while Sam has no issue talking about politics, when he can sense that someone is trying to trap him into saying something, he deliberately flouts it to annoy them, which is exactly what he did during Ian's documentary. But going back to Ian's negligent approach to all of this, if he had simply taken the time to do his due diligence, this would become obvious to the point where asking Sam, or even trying to structure the documentary around it, is a complete waste of time, especially if his objective was to make an entertaining video. Lastly, if Ian truly believed Sam was a far-right extremist who veiled his beliefs through a thin veneer of irony, then
probably be better off to just not even interact with him in the first place then, huh?
Why would he make a documentary effectively platforming Sam and giving him a wide berth to get...
Well, he was probably... Okay. He might... The argument might be that he was trying to, like, mock him because if he can get him... If he can, like, upset the jokester or make the jokester look like a silly little goose, like, maybe that could have been productive, or maybe that could have, like, shifted the narrative. I would imagine that would be his argument there.
Hundreds of thousands of new eyes on his content. Even if you look at this from Ian's perspective, it still makes no sense how all of this was carried out, which only adds to how terminally negative.
But then he didn't get Sam Hyde on it. And, like, I don't know, I guess I'd have to rewatch that. Maybe we should rewatch the videos released about iDubbbz. I think because he seemed like, based on what this video is describing, it seems like iDubbbz was in the right. I mean, that's what Sam Hyde is and does. And every time you criticize Sam Hyde for being a white supremacist, his fans like come out in droves and they're like, no, everything's a joke. He's not actually a white supremacist. So he might have been right. It might have just been, like, for the time, not, like, super palatable to say. Or maybe it's just, like, bad messenger, because what's the messenger? The messenger is iDubbbz. Like, everybody thinks he's a fucking loser at this point. So is he really the one that's going to try to do something? I mean, he goes after Sam Hyde to bounce back his fucking destroyed reputation. And that's pretty fucked for him. And it goes very poorly. And then what happens later? He goes after Ethan Klein to try to recover his destroyed reputation, and he gets fucked. It's actually very interesting. And then he marries a woman that fucks him in the ass with a strap on.
Negligent he continued to be, even after beginning his pivot to his new identity. In all likelihood, Ian probably thought that this documentary would be an easy dunk on a guy who was widely known for having his show canceled for being overtly far-right.
Oh, dude, wait. Real question. Did iDubbbz put Sam Hyde back on the map? Like, unironically? Like, was there, like, a conversation about how iDubbbz, or Sam Hyde was actually, like, kind of not doing well at this point?
And being blamed for every mass shooting.
This is, like, a real... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. This is, like, a real question, because I feel like... I could see it being, like, entirely possible that, that he fucking, like, revitalized Sam Hyde's career doing this, just like he didn't revitalize Ethan's career, but he revitalized his credibility because of his hit piece. So,
incident in the previous decade. But the exact opposite was the case. While Sam was already experiencing a resurgence in popularity at the time.
Yes, Sam even acknowledges it. Is that true? That's crazy. Dude, iDubbbz has the secret talent of just revitalizing people's careers after he makes hit pieces on them. That's actually fucking insane.
Due to one of the original members of MDE, Nick Rochefort, returning to do a podcast-style show with him called Perfect Guy Life.
What a fucking idiot. Could you imagine being the guy whose entire YouTube career was about taking down disingenuous pieces of dog shit on YouTube? That's your entire career. You retire from that. Your first instance of doing it again, you revitalize a white supremacist's career. You go into hiding again. You come back and and then you breathe fresh life into Ethan Klein's movement. Like, it's fucking insane. This is insane. He's 0 for 2. iDubbbz is just ineffective at this point. His entire person has been completely stripped and flayed away. And you want to know what? And I don't mean to be an asshole, but what's the common denominator here? It's Anisa. I guarantee you that Anisa sucked the life out of him and stripped his ability to be confident, because Anisa is not somebody, in my opinion, that inspires somebody's confidence. She seems like somebody that drains it unless you put really strong boundaries up. And I don't think iDubbbz is capable of doing something like that. That's why, since they've been together, iDubbbz has been going downwards. When you get with a good person, and in this instance a good woman, you should be exploding upwards. Ever since I met my wife, I've been going up. Even you could argue Ethan has been going up. Like, yeah, he doesn't get as many viral views as his H3 Productions video does, but like, he has a consistent podcast that I guarantee you brings him like 10 times the amount of money in. And so what do we have here? We have iDubbbz, the fucking failure. And it's his fault because he won't put strong boundaries up, but it's his wife's fault. She provides no positive, meaningful value. And like, I'm sorry, because I know that like puts so much stress on women, but like, a good woman is what makes a man a man. And very clearly, he's not a man. And so that to me communicates that she's not a good woman.
iDubbbz's blunder of a documentary ballooned to well over 6 million views, ironically sending Sam back into the stratosphere. With this documentary backfiring...
That's fucking crazy. Wait, that's funny. I'm going to read that for the video. Maybe iDubbbz should make a content cop on Anisa and revitalize her OF. That's fucking funny.
To an unbelievable extent, within a few months, Sam reappeared on Ian's radar. This time as the boxing trainer of Harley Morenstein of Epic Mealtime. In 2022, another one of Ian's creative ventures was Creator Clash, extrapolating from the extremely popular wave of influence.
Do I think he could revitalize my career? That's my career. I never had a vitalized career in the first place, so there's nothing to revitalize. And I know that you're trolling me. You're my favorite black son. But I'm doing better now than I have ever done as a content creator, so.
Boxing events and turning into a full card of YouTubers boxing each other. It's important to mention that outside of the YouTuber gimmick, Creator Clash was held with the objective of raising money for a variety of different charity funds, which will become much more relevant later on. While Sam himself wasn't invited to take part as a fighter, Ian didn't take issue with Harley making content out of Sam's involvement with his training. And for the time being, this signaled that there was no ill will between Sam and Ian. However, when the date of the event approached, it turned out that Sam had been blacklisted from the event, meaning he wasn't allowed to go, despite supposedly paying over $11,000 for 5 front row seats. In a Twitter space...
Bro, honestly, it makes sense that he was banned. I think that iDubbbz probably should have just announced it better. Say, hey, listen, this would have been the play to do it if you were really just completely worried about optics, you would say, and even if he still hated him. Because I think Ian, what did he do? He blamed it on the fact that he would harass his wife, which I'm sure that was part of it. But he should have just been like, listen, we're trying to run a successful event. Attaching him to it would be like really bad for advertisers. They wouldn't invest in there. Sorry, like I just can't do it. So like, yeah, I appreciate that he wanted to give us $12,000, but at the end of the day, like, I can't do. I mean, like, it literally would destroy the event. That's why the $12,000 would destroy the event for now and moving forward. But funny enough, Ian did that himself.
Base Keemstar asked Ian and Anisa, who was in charge of running the event for some reason, about the situation involving Sam.
We worked with Sam Hyde for a period, and it was tough. You know, he was wanting to put on his own show, and he did, and it was funny. But he's not a super cooperative guy. He's very unpredictable. So involving him in our event just isn't a good idea. I think most people would.
Business risk.
This is fair, frankly.
I think most people would understand that.
Yeah, it's a huge business risk. I mean, we're getting guys signing to agree to be within like
7 pounds of each other. I can't trust that. I mean, you can't really trust it. It's just hard to have trust there.
Fansly was a sponsor. It doesn't really matter if Fansly was a sponsor. I'm not sure how they would feel about having like a white supremacist attached to their event.
On top of that, it's like we've put way too much money and time into this to have one person.
You don't think it would have been a risk? I fundamentally disagree with you. I think that you're so much wronger than you think.
And also, like, do you think Dr. Mike would box on a card with Sam Hyde?
No, I don't think he would do that.
While I have no doubt that there could be people,
I think that was a little bit of a bad play to single out Dr. Mike. But like overall, they have a good point there. It's so funny because some of the things that they do and say are the right things to do and say. They just flounder and like fail in so many other metrics. If they held firm correctly on some of their arguments and they stayed out of the petty bullshit and they pushed forward, they would have had a successful event.
Whether it be fighters or potential sponsors, that would pull out.
But it's like for every right thing they say and do, they do like 5 wrong things.
But if they were aware of Sam's involvement, it's kind of weird that Anisa mentioned Dr. Mike, of all people, as someone who would pull out of the event. Due to this claim on the Twitter space, Sam was quick to antagonize Dr. Mike in response.
And that's why Dr. Mike never fought again. Because she's a fucking idiot. Like I just said, like that's stupid. You wouldn't single him out. You'd say it would be really bad for advertisers. You know, I don't want to put my fighters in that place, which insinuates that they have no opinion, but you think that they would have a potential opinion, and you talk about all of them, and you put more of it on you. This is what I'm talking about. They fucked this up so bad. There's no way they didn't have like a PR rep.
There's not one real person following Dr. Mike.
Assuming that Anisa was telling the truth. But when Brandon Buckingham did an interview with Dr. Mike and asked him about it, this is what Dr. Mike had to say.
Did you hear that he banned Sam Hyde from entering the event?
I did not. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
He's lying 100%.
Yeah.
I have no idea either, sorry.
He had like front row $10,000 seats, and then he said he couldn't come to the event.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I don't know what to say about that. That wasn't my call.
Sad Sam Hyde at home watching this. Do you want to say?
Yeah, that's obviously what Dr. Mike's going to say. And that's what he should say. Why would he attach or give any credibility to Sam Hyde? Dr. Mike is very clearly lying, in my opinion. But why the fuck would he be like, yeah, I did, because I fucking hate that. Dr. Mike, unironically, is a very intelligent doctor who has incredibly intelligent conversations. I like Dr. Mike a lot. Why the fuck would he get involved with a conversation with some like fucking white supremacist guy that like trolls the internet? Why would he do that? Like it's and I don't know if she was being malicious. I doubt it. I think she was being stupid. Why would she ever bring him up at all? Why put him in this situation? Of course this is how he's going to act. This is how I would act too if I was Dr. Mike. I'm not Dr. Mike, but like that's how I'd act too. Why the fuck would he be like, yeah, you know, I wouldn't have fought with Sam Hyde if he was part of the event? Why would you do that?
Shout out Sam Hyde.
Sorry, Sam Hyde, that happened to you.
Clearly, based on his response, not only did he have nothing to do with it, but he wasn't even familiar with the situation.
And that's what he wants you guys to think.
Obviously, based on their shifty behavior, especially later on when Sam joined the Twitter space, they just disliked Sam specifically for his political opinions and didn't want to give him a platform for him to promote himself through. Instead of being honest about it, they pivoted to talking about how hard it was to ensure all of the YouTubers they had on the card were being properly trained by real coaches and wouldn't miss weight, citing Anisa's supposed background in kinesiology to legitimize the importance of overseeing these things, which was met with a laughing emoji reaction by
Didn't she decide to not go to college? How did she have a background in kinesiology?
Sam.
I'd like to study a movement or something.
I have a kinesiology background, nutrition background, so I'm
Me too, guys. I eat food and move around. That's what she's saying, I guess.
able to kind of like
She was guiding me the whole time. Yeah. Tell me what to eat, when to eat.
It seems they took an approach that put an unusual amount of weight on making everyone involved with the event as comfortable as possible. And in an episode of the H3 podcast,
while going on the H3 podcast for free, I'm going to assume, and freely promoting their product for free and getting free shout outs and then still coming out with a hit piece. Isn't that fucking crazy?
From 1 month prior to the event, this was elaborated on mostly by Anisa. But here we have a pretty interesting moment. Legitimate boxing coach Michael Briggs highlights how genuine and generous Ian was when it came to things like pay, only for Anisa to butt in, talking about how fighters are exploited the same way sex workers are. But she laments that there is no equivalent of OnlyFans for them to be their own agents.
It's very similar to like the porn industry for women.
It might be. I was watching a thing. I can't tell you the specifics. I forget. But there was like a UFC fighter who doesn't fight in the UFC anymore because he was like basically demanding that he would only fight again if they basically unionized. Like, hey, we want healthcare and better insurances and better pay if we fight and the UFC makes an egregious amount of money and they don't see the amount of money comparatively per fight, blah, blah, blah. And like, it sounds like there might be a level of truth to that. I mean, like, and I know that that's MMA, but it's like, I wouldn't doubt that there's a level of truth to this.
The way that fighters are treated.
It's almost like iDubbbz and Anisa, at least previously, they're able to look good when things are good for them. But when things are bad for them, they're not able to look good. Like, they don't know how to hold themselves and be composed. And I understand it can be hard, but...
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's very exploitive. They get them young, and they don't tell them all the consequences, and they don't pay them properly, and they don't represent them properly.
That's really interesting comparison.
Yeah, and there's no unions or anyone helping them.
No one's protecting them at all.
Yeah.
What's interesting,
they look like babies here.
The thing about the porn industry lately is how women have been, or well, anyone in the porn industry can go. Like, there's so many people becoming multi-millionaires by going.
How do you know, Ethan?
And making.
How do you know, Ethan? You subscribing?
OnlyFans and doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But the boxers can't do that.
We've actually joked about it a few times, making like an OnlyFans for fighters.
Only boxers?
Yeah.
First off,
how would that work?
It's kind of frustrating to see how compulsively Anisa has to make everything about OnlyFans. Michael just made a compliment to her husband, and she...
Well, it kind of makes a little bit of sense if she does OnlyFans. That's like her careers, right? So it makes sense. I compare things to my life all the time.
Absolutely.
It's just that she's generally cringe and obnoxious and a bad person. So like, it's free. We're free to dogpile her, kind of. Like, honestly, that's what it is. She's unliked, justifiably.
Diverted into some gibberish about exploitation and how fighters should unionize to make more money. Secondly, it's not true that you can't make money in fighting being a free agent. Not only are there people like Kimbo Slice who grew an audience by fighting people online before YouTube.
There's probably more rich OnlyFans girls than there are rich free agent fighters.
Existed, but nowadays you have plenty of small, amateur, and otherwise makeshift fighting promotions operating mostly out of YouTube.
I don't think that they make a particularly high amount of money, but...
Such as Street Beefs, which has already succeeded at producing extremely popular fighters, like Death Sentence, who went on to become a web celebrity. Last but not least, it's only fitting that she's giving this fair pay spiel as a response to Michael Briggs, who has recently come out to say that he, along with his wife, Kate, who was recording the training process, had accepted reduced training fees from Ian as they'd been promised exposure from the documentary that was supposed to be made out of the lead up to the first Creator Clash event.
True.
But this exposure never happened because the documentary was never made, and
it was never really a charity event, so.
The Briggs couple was never reimbursed.
And he said his job was to go around and like film Anisa having interactions with everyone. So we didn't know if that meant they were going to make the second documentary about how, or the actual documentary about how like Anisa
I just get Chicken Little
was responsible for the event, because she did put a lot of work in for the first event and she did put a lot of work in for the second, but at the same time in the first event she didn't get credit for it, so she felt like she deserved all the credit.
If that wasn't bad enough, Michael added that during their time training Ian, Anisa tried to control what kind of music played in their gym. The thing is, plenty of other people who had
it was like cringe music, right?
Nothing to do with Creator Clash were also training at that gym. So Anisa was basically demanding favoritism just so that indie music would play in the background of training footage.
Well, listen, it's fine that she wanted to have some of her own music going on during whatever. I don't really have too much of an issue with that. I think it's one of the things where they said it was shit music and she still like cried about it.
That would never even get released. When we all know what kind of music really belongs in the gym. Worst of all is that Anisa went above and beyond being petty about Creator Clash related endeavors and developed a personal grudge against Michael. At one point, Anisa went directly to Kate and said she had no idea why they were together, saying he didn't respect women, clearly trying to drive a wedge between them for seemingly no reason. Their relationship only grew.
Yeah, but she was like a fucking abused child bride. Isn't that fucked up?
More strained as time went on, as after Kate didn't respond to Anisa's...
I'm surprised one of the fucking Hassan Orbiter freaks didn't say that this guy found a vulnerable woman to date because he wanted to take advantage of her. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't doubt that they would say some wild-ass disgusting shit like that.
Anisa discovered Michael had some Jewish ancestry, and according to them, she became more distant, keeping them in the dark about the post-fight gala event, and eventually expressing they didn't need to be there.
I mean, maybe. I think that could be true. It's probably, and that might be true, but I think it's more likely that Anisa has a massive ego, completely undeserved ego, because she's accomplished nothing in her entire life at all. And this isn't me just being petty. This is like I think a fact. But maybe I'm wrong. Well, she did have a failure of a boxing event, but what do I know? And I think that it's like, oh, she didn't like them because they weren't training the way that she felt that that training should have happened because she knows best. But that's what I think more than anything else.
Suggesting she specifically didn't want them to be there. Then, when the Briggs couple reached out to them for their support for a bill to end child marriage, which was relevant since Ian and Anisa knew Kate was a child marriage survivor, they were simply left on red. We'll eventually come back to the topic of the
well, I think that there was also the one thing where they asked iDubbbz and Anisa to co-sign the fucking loan or something for their boxing gym, which I thought was way over the line, you know. But again, if they were reasonable people, they could be like, yeah, you know, they asked us to do this, and after that, I was like, what the fuck? So we just kind of stopped, we just cut ties with them because that's a really weird, over the line thing to ask. So we were kind of uncomfortable with talking to them at that point. Because if they had said that, I think I could be like, oh, okay, but they're also not reasonable people, so I don't trust their narrative. Right, like I don't trust Ian and Anisa's narrative around anything because they're just so unreasonable and like bad people that, you know, their credibility is shot. So I would struggle to even believe what they're saying is true.
Generosity of the Johmas, and yes, the Johmas, because Ian took her last name when they got married in 2021.
Dude, that's why your wife doesn't respect you, iDubbbz. Okay, what the hell's wrong with you?
Apparently, just because they
does your wife respect you if you treat her like an equal? What?
Agreed that Ian's last name sounded bad.
The only reason why we chose my name over his last name is because his last name is like just objectively ugly. It's just like an ugly last name.
What is it, Anisa? I'm sorry.
Like Washburn sounds horrendous.
Not really. It really doesn't sound that bad. Like Washburn sounds better than Johma. What the fuck is that? It's like a kid with a lisp trying to say Jonathan. It's what?
Like Anisa Washburn definitely stormed the Capitol.
For the time being, everyone got to watch the unspoken but explicit transformation of Ian, from a guy who had regrets about how insensitive he'd been in the past to a full-on masochist. Another milestone of this metamorphosis is about a month after the first creator clash, iDubbbz appeared on Hasan Piker's stream, and of course, he was with Anisa. Again, if their objective was to be simply neutral and not take any risks, Hasan would probably—
Hey guys, can you tell people that you've been to our house and we don't let our kid roll on shit? No, we don't want to take any sides. Sorry, bye.
Be out of the picture due to his overtly political online presence. But interestingly enough, that didn't seem to matter here.
You were shitting on the most like right-wing content creators of that era. Maybe not like officially positioning yourself as that, but it—
Whoa, crazy.
Did feel like, I mean, you were like, you dunked on Keemstar, Rice Gum. Like, obviously these are apolitical people, but they're still like very heavily slanted to the right.
Whoa, are you being racist? Sorry guys, I spilled something on my thing. I forgot to leave the video playing so we can maliciously steal views. Just being silly. Link to the core video always in the description under sources.
Leafy.
Regardless of how much online hatred they were attracting on an individual—
I love this. Hey, back in the day when you were like super edgy, you were still a really positive influence. How do you think that shakes iDubbbz when he constantly over apologizes and then he's told like, hey, you actually weren't that bad back then? I think he feels really fucking stupid.
Individual level, the first creator—
I lost views when I went to piss. I don't care. Good. You know what it is, man. I gotta pee, you gotta pee. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna lose a few viewers. Life, that's life.
Clash was a success.
Wait, I didn't have to pee. I spilled something. Fuck!
Raising over $1 million
I went and peed, though.
For charity, selling over 100,000 pay-per-views, packing the entire arena, and having pretty much every person who attended compliment how well run and organized it was, especially compared to other influencer boxing events. The same could not be said for Creator Clash 2. In January of 2023, the second installment of the event was announced for April, which kicked Sam's online badgering of iDubbbz into high gear, to the point where people were making entire compilations out of it. However, Ian and Anisa weren't the only people in his scope, as he also began notoriously targeting Hasan Piker. In late August of the same year, Sam took part in a boxing match and dedicated his victory speech to Hasan, saying he was looking for a boxing match and maybe a little more.
Got anyone you want to call out in the heavyweight division?
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that, Hasan Piker! I'm coming to kill you!
Okay.
In Los Angeles, at your house!
Or in the ring?
No, in real life. I'm going to stalk him and become obsessed with him and wear his makeup and his dresses and use his skin as a coat like the ancient Irish did.
While this was pretty successful at disturbing Hassan, it didn't get him any closer to his goal of getting to Ian, so he changed his strategy. While Harley was also slated to fight in Creator Clash 2, this time Sam connected with Froggy Fresh, a YouTuber who got big over a decade ago with comedic rap videos. Froggy was set to fight Chris Raygun, another channel that, while still active today, peaked during the
That's Anisa's boyfriend, no?
2016 anti-SJW era. All in all, a good matchup that made sense. A few minutes after Happy Punch would tweet that photo, Anisa's mother, using a sock puppet account titled The Pied Piper, replied to some tweets referring to Froggy, saying she hoped they would replace the Pied Piper.
Oh, fuck.
Piper replied to some tweets referring to Froggy, saying she hoped they would replace the imp.
Damn, that's probably not smart. Is that really what all kicked this whole thing off? Because if that is, I have a different perspective on what the hell is going on.
Froggy retweeted and replied to her tweets, referring to her by her real name and joking about iDubbbz being a pimp. And just like that, her account was deactivated. Just one day later, the official Creator Clash Twitter account announced that Froggy would no longer be fighting at the event, which left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Most notably, YouTuber Jadion offered a $100,000 donation to Creator Clash if they reinstated Froggy, which wasn't even considered. And none other than Moist Critical tweeted,
Damn, I didn't know that. I thought that this whole thing started because he decided to work with Sam Hyde, and then things escalated. Although that's probably where it did start. Like, and then the mom escalated from there. Anisa and her mom are just fucking worthless, though. Like, why instigate? They could just never shut the fuck up.
Urging them to reconsider the decision.
At that point, you need to just apologize and be like, "Listen, we fucked up. We shouldn't have been so rude to him. My mom's a dumb asshole."
With that many people pitching in on the matter, you'd imagine that there'd be some better reasoning for Froggy's removal made public, but instead, it was radio silence. At this point, people had already bought tickets for the event, and despite changing—
Alright, I could say, Meg looks hot in this game. She's in her early to mid-20s, so I can say that. She was also my crush when I was younger, so I like this movie.
The lineup, Ian and Anisa felt they didn't even have to justify their decisions to their paying customers. Of course, there are plenty of problems with other fighting promotions, but you can easily find dozens of examples of fighters who got in pretty extreme trouble with the heads of their promotions and still were allowed to continue fighting. In this case, even with little to no information, it was clear what was happening, although it seemed like they wouldn't admit it. They developed a personal grudge against Froggy due to the things he had said, and the fact he was training with Sam probably did no favors with the Johmas either, leading to his removal from the event despite the months of work he'd put into his training up until that point. As public pressure—
I mean, that's, if anything, that's only going to kind of empower Sam Hyde to like push for more, because he's like, oh, I got under their skin. May continuously do this.
Mounted, and people were widely perceiving the organization of Creator Clash as the unreasonable party, they decided to release another public statement. As you may be aware, we recently announced Froggy Fresh would be leaving the Creator Clash 2 ticket. We wanted to provide some additional information around the rationale for this decision to help clarify some of the online chatter. We have a legally binding code of conduct that each of our Creator Clash 2 fighters are held to, the violation of which is grounds for termination. Unfortunately, there were several violations made by Froggy Fresh during his tenure with Creator Clash this year. The Creator Clash 2 team, inclusive of the production company, takes violations seriously and made several unsuccessful attempts to address them directly with Froggy Fresh in the hopes we could work together to get things back on track. When it became clear that the exhibited behavior wasn't stopping, at risk to the other fighters, fans, and others involved in the event, the Creator Clash 2 team made the collective decision to move forward without Froggy Fresh on the ticket. Our #1 priority is ensuring Creator Clash 2 is a positive, safe, welcoming space for everyone. While their statement ended with a note about how much money had already been donated to charity, this did very little to satisfy people, including Froggy, who replied saying that he still hadn't been told what he did to warrant this treatment. He later retweeted this statement and claimed to have been threatened with a lawsuit if he spoke out about what was going on, and was asked to return the $15,000 he was given for the previous 5 months of training, which had already taken place. Oddly, after taking—
That's pretty fucking crazy. They shouldn't have asked that for that back. I mean, it's one thing to just be like, hey, we're going to cut ties, but it's another thing to demand all the money back.
Every opportunity to emblazon themselves as the face of the event, suddenly Ian and Anisa were nowhere to be found, and everybody was getting stonewalled by the faceless and robotic answers of the official account.
they should have done from the fucking start. The fact that they like got so ingrained in drama over this is so stupid.
Despite this hang-up going pretty much unexplained, the event went forward, and according to Anisa herself, the arena was packed, despite Taylor Swift holding a show simultaneously, which in a
whoa, Taylor Swift tried to cuck them?
Reply, Anisa claimed made the hotels for the fighters a lot more expensive. Although Froggy's absence didn't seem to make that much of a difference for the majority of the people who attended, it made a huge difference.
It's more for like the drama community online, you know?
For Chris Ray Gun, who he was supposed to fight. Instead of 5'2" Froggy, 5'4" Chris got matched up against 5'10" William Haynes.
What the fuck?
Who was almost 10 pounds heavier than him.
Jesus Christ.
Surprisingly, he was TKO'd in the second round pretty brutally.
Damn. I mean, that's unfortunate for him, huh?
Finally, after the event had ended, Ian revealed the real reason for Froggy's removal.
Why even talk about it?
The main reason Froggy was kicked from the card was for collaborating with Sam Hyde.
What a stupid fuck. Why would he even make it? It just seems like it was what a bad decision to even talk about this. Why? What the fuck?
And, you know, for anyone who's been following the story...
Like, we all love the drama, but, like, that just seems like such a bad idea to talk about this. Why even talk about that? Why give Sam Hyde that? Like, Sam Hyde wins over that, right? Like, Sam Hyde wins, and now he like, clearly lives, like, a fucking rent-free in your head. So, it seems, like, kind of stupid to fucking talk about this like this, no?
That's, you know, fairly obvious. Froggy has explained, you know, his side of the story multiple times. And unfortunately, he's been perpetuating a narrative that it's about OnlyFans or that it's about Anisa's mom. And that's extremely deceptive because he knows why he was kicked from the card. The one indication I gave him was Sam Hyde, and I wasn't unclear about that.
Additionally, he claimed through a series of text messages that Froggy knew exactly why he'd been terminated and had been pretending otherwise for attention.
Jesus.
While it is a bit odd that the announcement of the termination only came after Froggy's interaction with Anisa's mom, it was made clear in the text that he was given fair warning to not work with Sam in relation to his match in Creator Clash 2, but he proceeded to do so anyway, claiming that Ian had...
Which again, it's clear that it's fair that he wouldn't want people to work with Sam Hyde, considering he's a white supremacist. So.
No power over who he was friends with. In this specific case, even if the reason for the termination can be considered frivolous, it was clear Ian was telling the truth, and Froggy had been omitting it. However, in the same video, Ian claims that they had no interest in suing him and that he had been lying about that. But as it turns out, he had actually received a letter that not just notified him of his termination, but also demanded that he cease and desist from speaking about the event, and asking for the refund of the $15,000.
What a stupid idiot greedy move. $15,000 is a lot of money for that, well, in general, but probably not so much for them. And just like it makes you look really bad when you're like, no, give us the money back. They should have just tried to do a clean cut and been like, okay, we're just not going to do this. Like, and just like, we're not going to bring any negative PR. We're going to cancel the collaboration and then try not to bring any negative PR because it's not really worth it for the event. You know, if we're not going to allow Sam Hyde to come to the event and we're going to cut ties with people who are, you know, Sam Hyde friends or whatever, or working with him actively, then what we're saying is, with the justifier being we don't want negative PR, then you can't do things that would bring negative PR like this. Like, if you're going to go with the PR argument, which I think is a solid argument, you can't be doing shit like this. This is stupid.
Now, there are only two possibilities here. Either Ian knew the contents of this letter and lied about it on his video, or this section was included by someone without his knowledge, which led him to make this video not knowing that they had, in fact, threatened Froggy with a lawsuit. But neither possibility made Ian, Anisa, or the event at large look very good. Regardless of the details of the situation and their back and forth, it was just one aspect of the event, which up until that point wasn't signaling any issues. Until, well, it signaled every possible issue. On the 3rd of July, iDubbbz posted a video titled "The Harsh Reality of Creator Clash 2, where he revealed they had lost $250,000 on the event.
For Creator Clash 2, you know, despite it being a fun event and despite good fights and a lot of creators sacrificing a lot of time, money, and energy, we lost $250,000 on the event.
It's unclear here if with we he meant him and Anisa, or he meant them and Real Good Touring, the company with which they work to host the events. There's also Mike Leonardi, the silent co-founder of Creator Clash, so I wonder if he's included here, which matters because although there may be an overall net loss, it's deceptive the way it's not specified how exposed Ian and Anisa were to it, meaning we don't know how much of that $250,000 is their personal loss. Immediately after, Ian says they weren't even able to pay off the minimums, which include the money for everyone's traveling, hotel, and training expenses.
Unfortunately, we didn't even reach the break-even point, right? We're $250,000 in the red. I foolishly thought that the success of last year should be a minimum, you know, a minimum for what we are able to do this year. And that wasn't true.
While I can't comment on the cost of each of these things individually, since they haven't been publicized by Ian, it's been pointed out that paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for each participant's training is an insane thing to do. And it's surprising that he doesn't even consider this maybe was an issue. If you actually watch the event, only 5 of the 12 fights even went the distance, and no one looked good as far as being a technical boxer is concerned.
I mean, that was probably the problem. Maybe one of the biggest issues, and I really don't know, is that they just didn't have a good card. I mean, they couldn't get Dr. Mike the second year. And why do you think that is? Because they did this, they weirdly threw him under the bus, and like they insinuated he was to blame for them not having Sam Hyde there, instead of just being like, hey, he would be bad for PR, and we don't want us to attach ourselves to that at all. And, we don't want there to potentially be an issue with other fighters. None of them, you know what I mean? None of them expressed an issue, but like, I think it would be better off to not have Sam Hyde there because of his reputation. But they are like, yeah, like you think Dr. Mike would have wanted to, even if they didn't mean to be negative about it, it's just such a stupid way to talk. Why would they talk about that? Like they are their own worst fucking advertisers.
Clearly, they were all people who only took up the sport recently, and the thing is, that's not even a problem. Creator Clash and other events like it aren't professional or Olympic boxing events. It's not being watched by seasoned boxing connoisseurs who expect the fighters to be excellent. It's primarily being watched by viewers of the YouTubers who are taking part. And again, if it's not obvious enough, people who are fans of Aaron Hansen aren't fans because of how well he boxes. Their job as entertainers is to entertain, and influencer boxing is one of the venues through which they can do that. But probably due to how much Ian and Anisa emphasized that they had to take the whole thing seriously and dedicate themselves to training, the majority of the people here were not posting content related to Creator Clash 2. As it was pointed out by one commenter,
yeah, and for whatever reason they didn't. I mean, I know that they had a Creator Clash channel with like 12,000 followers, but for whatever reason they didn't do more to promote. They didn't do more to promote like the boxing event in a productive way. Like, I don't really understand why they didn't do that. Like, why? I don't know why iDubbbz wouldn't have changed his content on his main channel to reflect like more of a like, hey guys, I'm going to use my iDubbbz channel to do interviews with Creator Clash people. We're going to get to know them and talk to them as like they're people. This way you're more invested in them, and we're going to do these, that. Like, they could have done so much. They could have made so much money for Creator Clash. Like, I don't know why you'd think that content creators on the internet would have valued YouTube and be like, yeah, we're going to do a ton of stuff leading up to Creator Clash that'll make us money and promote the event. We're going to do a fucking heavily pushed podcast. And maybe they did. I don't think that they did that on their Creator Clash channel. I don't think that they did that. But we're going to do a heavily pushed podcast. And we're gonna really like we're gonna really push shit. Like, here's the Creator Clash website. They did a highlights. There's highlights of the fights. Okay, highlights. This is from 4 months ago. Highlights. Creator Clash 2 teaser. Creator Clash, choose your fighter. What the fuck is this? This is their official Creator Clash channel. It has 6,000 followers. What the fuck is it? You're posting highlights of the event after the event's over? Whoa, what the fuck is this? Like, literal idiot shit. Like, a fucking moron could have known that you should have heavily pushed, even if it's a new channel, some kind of Creator Clash podcast. Like, you guys ever watched Big Brother? I've watched a few seasons of Big Brother. They have like whole podcasts centralized around that shit. People love it. People love getting ingrained into like the culture of it. Where the fuck is something like that? Nothing. You guys are, you know, they're sitting here talking about how there's so much shared trauma from like learning to fight in boxes. It's difficult training and the fights are really grueling on you, which I'm sure that they are. Why wouldn't you make a whole podcast talking about these things? What? They don't know. They're so ineffective. iDubbbz and Anisa, they're idiots when it comes to bad publicity, and they're idiots when it comes to promoting their event. It makes no sense.
Even iDubbbz was guilty of this, as he, the co-founder and promoter in name only of the event, wasn't making content out of the lead-up, which is something he actually did in Creator Clash 1. In this harsh reality,
not just the lead-up, but the post-op. You know, why not try to get some of the fighters to weigh in on their decision? Try to talk to Dr. Mike again, even if he's not involved in it, and do like a podcast episode on Creator Clash. Like, hey, Creator Clash 2's coming out in a month. Like, what do you think about the fighters? Give us your opinion. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Dude, there was nothing. Hey, it's Vincent.
Video. Ian mentions that all of the creators all had to put their careers on hold while training for it, which is precisely the opposite of what they should do.
Yeah, that is pretty stupid. That's going to disincentivize people. Like, have them train. Maybe they should have trained less intensely.
Unsurprisingly, plenty of people didn't even know the second event was happening. And if they did, they had no idea when. The content creators, who were paid a decent amount of money to show up, were incentivized to not do the one thing they can actually be good at, creating content. And even that is...
They didn't even have to. Like, they just needed to come on. Yeah, part of the agreement is you're going to have to sit down with us for an hour on your computer every once in a while and do a podcast episode with us or something. Oh, okay, cool.
Being generous, since most of these guys didn't get any significant amount of views, meaning they couldn't promote the event even if they wanted to. I don't want to be disrespectful to these people, but the majority of them are randoms whose names don't get people buying pay-per-views, let alone tickets to the event. And yet, they're getting the same amount of money as the big names, despite bringing in only a fraction, if even that, of the total viewership. Simply put, them being there cost more than it generated in revenue.
Probably.
Ian could have dramatically reduced the costs and increased sales by only having the biggest content creators on the card. And
maybe, yeah. I mean, or just been smart and actually plug the shit. You know, if you're gonna have a bunch of nobodies get, like, why aren't you making us care about it? Hey, make us care about this person.
And of course, telling them to actively promote the thing they're doing. Alternatively, if he really wanted to include smaller creators without eating a huge cost, he could do it like the UFC does to prelim fighters. Pay them a small, flat rate for showing up, another small, flat rate for winning, and let them train however they want or not train at all. That way, the rest of the money could have been spent on promoting the event. No matter how much money you turn into ash by giving it to these people for training, it won't change that these are just gimmick fights involving
oh, it's Oren. Why did I call him Vincent? Wow, what an idiot.
Trained people who will look bad in the ring. With this in mind, they should have forewent everything, even weight classes, in order to make it more entertaining. Other companies have proved this is possible, but Creator Clash deliberately chose not to. If the cost and requirement for having people on the card were cut, I'm sure there would be computer-bound freaks with small followings who would throw themselves in the thresher for attention and the content they could farm out of their appearance. Based on Ian's explanation of it, he believed that simply having more people on the card would generate more revenue, without taking into consideration whether these new people had any sizable following whatsoever.
I thought, okay, you know, we're bringing on more talent, we're bringing on more creators. That should translate to more pay-per-view buys.
Even if he paid them all the same, which he might have been dumb enough to do, it's obvious that the biggest creators will bring in the crushing majority of the revenue, and the smaller ones will end up being a cost. Instead of recognizing his abysmal failure to run his fighting event the same way all other successful fighting events are run, he instead thinks that this is the fault of not having enough anti-piracy measures.
Amongst the 800 pirated streaming sites, there were...
I mean, they did, like, I'm sure that there's a factor that piracy sites are having a negative impact, but those are just kind of, they just exist. And while you can try to do something about it, you know, you should also focus on what you could do about your failure in the promotion of this event, which is astronomically high. Right? Like, we know the ways in which you failed. You guys barely promoted the event. It was fucking horseshit. Why wouldn't you focus more on that? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all that they didn't focus any meaningful capacity on actually, like, advertising the event. Like, that's your #1 fucking issue.
Between 1.3 and 3 million viewers.
How do I do something to this?
So
Oh,
even though
you know
there
what?
were around 50,000 pay-per-view buys, there were around 1.3 to 3 million
viewers. But we didn't have any anti-piracy measures we weren't prepared to deal with.
I guarantee that if there were really effective anti-piracy measures in place, the people who didn't pay for it wouldn't suddenly cough up the money. They'd just wait for the fights to be released for free on YouTube. To add insult to injury, he remarks that the event was held in an arena that was twice as big as the previous events, as they bought out a hotel and held events both before and after the fight to process the trauma of being in a fight, which he claimed was entirely necessary and not something he'd consider not doing.
You know, fighters and friends and family could come together and process their trauma. That was sort of paramount for me.
According to Ian's boxing coach, who eventually defected and spoke out about the event, a month before Creator Clash 2 took place, they were already in the hole for $500,000. And apparently, these costs didn't even include the post-fight gala event, so it's almost impossible to say just how incompetent they actually were. Remember, the whole point of the event, in theory, is to raise money for charities, but it's clearly not as important as having a whole hotel bought out, so a bunch of content creators, most of whom are doing perfectly—
Guys, we're just trying to process our trauma, guys. We just wanted to help everybody process their trauma.
Fine for themselves financially can what? Hang out?
$20,000 to basically like just be a little bit less in pain after going through all this torment and trauma.
The way Ian repeatedly uses words like torment and trauma to describe the boxing matches makes it sound like he has absolutely no business fighting or promoting a fighting event. And given how he lost both of his matches, there's
he looks really good there.
Probably some truth to that. The thing is, people don't get paid for how much trauma they underwent. They're supposed to get paid.
Wouldn't it make more sense to do this on a podcast? Like, hey, we want to talk about how much trauma we underwent, so we're going to do a fucking podcast about it and talk about it together after the event. Wouldn't that have made sense? Hey, post-fight interview with such and such about how much they fucking felt traumatized by this event? Nah, let's not do that. Let's say fuck it. You know, let's not do anything productive or intelligent.
For how much money they bring to the event. And independent of piracy, there was little worth paying the pay-per-view to see. Even in the face of a $250,000 loss, Ian somehow thinks he's doing the moral thing by paying every fighter the amount he paid them. But if they're not making that money back, then he's just doing charity for—
Maybe it would have been a moral thing to not call it a charity event Maybe don't call it a charity event when it's not a charity event. That might be the moral thing to do.
The fighters, instead of doing charity for, you know, the charitable organizations that Creator Clash is supposed to support. Lastly, it's impossible not to notice that whenever it's to show up to a podcast or take credit for things going well, Anisa's involvement is unavoidable. But whenever it's to address difficult things and actually communicate clearly, you only see Ian. Coincidentally, the only times things get communicated clearly at all is when Ian is the one doing it, which makes it that much more frustrating that he keeps putting—
is it really clear or does it sound clear? You know,
himself down about it while—
You're another fight guy. Hansel, I feel like this event's fucked. I don't even think Creator Clash could ever come back. They were so bad about it.
Praising Anisa's communication skills.
Yeah, Anisa was the one who like solves problems. She is more communicative than me, and she's better at communicating than I am.
I like this picture. Thank you, iDubbbz. It's perfect. This is a good thumbnail picture. Who the fuck believes that, by the way? Who the fuck legitimately believes that Anisa is better at communicating? I think iDubbbz is mistaking confidence for, you know, effectiveness. Just because she speaks confidently doesn't make her an effective or good communicator. All right, it makes you an idiot for believing that.
I fucking suck at this shit.
So where were these—
Guys, I suck. I'm so bad at everything. Everything I'm so bad. I'm not good at anything. I'm bad at all stuff. I'm like, okay. Like, great. I love your confidence, I guess.
Amazing communication—
Hey, love your confidence, bud. Great stuff.
skills when it came to giving the public the reasons why Froggy was removed. Oh yeah, that was Ian. At the end of the day, the person who has to take these catastrophes to the face is Ian. And given that he's at a much better financial standing than she is, you just know that Ian was covering those Creator Clash 2 losses, as he'd never allow it to cut into her OnlyFans revenue. If this massive failure wasn't enough, about a month before he made these announcements, Ian released a video titled "I Miss the Old iDubbbz," which is just an even more grating remake of his 2020 response to the OnlyFans criticism.
I am—
But we love the content, baby.
Responsible for creating a lot of hurtful and damaging content on this channel. And I've also created a culture of—
Guys, I'm a bad guy. Please tell me I'm a good boy, though. I gotta chastise myself so I know I'm doing the right thing.
Apathy
and I don't know, a lot of like cruelty as well.
Here, he announced he'd be taking down some of his content, specifically his content cop videos, which he considered cruel and morally grandstanding.
Wow, crazy.
And while this does fall in line with his current worldview, the grandstanding part is simply not true. Even if his older content was mean,
I mean, maybe in some capacity, is it really worth taking your shit down though?
Spirited in its attempts to entertain, at no point was Ian taking the moral high ground. He made people look
that's true. He just discovered empathy, true.
Stupid, or at worst, deceptive, but he didn't really paint his—
I think he just discovered a person that could think for him, and that's Anisa. Too bad she's a fucking idiot when she thinks.
Targets as evil and make himself look like the good guy in comparison. That's closer to what H3 did when he used to cover things like CSGO skins, and it's not what iDubbbz used to make. He also says that he only got up to those things in the first place because he felt his personality wouldn't be enough to entertain people. And although he's right—
oh man, he's so self-conscious.
Right, it's completely irrelevant. Everyone knows iShowSpeed barks and lunges at his computer screen to entertain his audience. That's not his personality, that's just something he plays up for content. To think that this is something—
well, I mean, it's I guess a display of his— I mean, it's an exaggerated form of his personality, but I guess it's like a display of his personality, no? Like, he's like silly, goofy guy, but he also is like— he's entertaining outside of that, though. That's the thing, too. Like, there's actually a reason to watch iShowSpeed.
Somehow a crutch or to have some kind of imposter syndrome about it is on the same level as thinking that WWE is real. Later on in the—
whoa, what are you talking about, dude? It's real, okay? Just because it's scripted doesn't mean it's not real, dude. Stop it, okay?
Same video, he starts talking about how important it is for him to open up and let his audience see who he really is. But the thing is, that's just not entertaining. Even the most successful streamers whose entire career hinges on the cult of personality surrounding them need to be doing stuff all the time to entertain their audience. Ultimately, the people yearn for content, not support groups and sensitivity lectures.
True, you can only do that so much with people who follow you before they get fucking tired of that shit.
However harsh that may sound. Moments later, he pivots to talking about how bigoted his content was, his responsibility for his entire audience's actions, and how—
but that's the only content he makes. This is the fucking problem. It's all he talks about. Every time he makes a fucking video, it's either eating Cheez-Its or talking about how much of a good boy he's become. It gets boring. I think that there are people who will always dismiss iDubbbz because he changed and he's, well, incredibly cringe and he overcorrected. But then I think that half of it is that every time someone criticizes him, he just decides that it's because he made a change, and you guys are just detractor fans that like fucking hate the direction he moved into, and you're actually the problem. And he just keeps beating this dead horse, and he hasn't moved on from it himself, and he thinks it's like an easy, like, yeah, no, I'm actually a good guy. Like, it's just fucking stupid and boring.
How he's ready to begin working toward redeeming himself.
And I just want to make it clear that I am absolutely responsible for my audience. And, you know, I guess if you want to—
he's a good guy, guys. He's a good guy.
You know, look out for people who are red flags. It's definitely people who had my mentality that say, I'm not responsible.
The thing is, if it's true that he's responsible—
he's such a good guy, he's responsible. He's not responsible for the failure of Creator Clash, but he is responsible for some people being bad guys. He's a good guy, guys. You don't really understand, but he's the goodest guy.
For his audience's actions, then he has absolutely no hope of ever redeeming himself. He had tens of millions of people repeating all kinds of unsavory catchphrases, and many of these people didn't even watch his content and just knew him from clips and memes. In order to undo it, he'd have to commit seppuku and light himself on fire like a Tibetan monk. Or alternatively, he could just acknowledge that his content was just that, content. He can claim his intentions were irrelevant all he wants, but at the end of the day, it's clear that he wasn't indoctrinating his audience or sending a message. He was just being offensive for the sake of entertainment. If at any point he was morally grandstanding, that point—
he was being a silly guy.
Is right now.
Why do I like this good man? You had a good point. I think I'm fucking bigoted, dude. I think that's the problem.
As he tells the people who liked his old content that they need to acknowledge that it's irresponsible.
But it doesn't matter. I don't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty or hate. It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not. It's super irresponsible.
Later on,
I'm trying to like figure out how to communicate this. I wonder, he seems a little full of himself. Like, obviously, like, he was influential in some capacity, but like to the degree where he's just like, oh man, like, I indoctrinated all you guys. All this stuff is my fault. I've done so much, and it's like, I feel like you're really overstating yourself here. Like, I'm sure you had an impact, whether it's necessarily positive or negative, but he's just like constantly like, you guys only act like this because of me. Because of me. I did all this. That's all me. Like, everything is about me. And now I'm going to apologize for you. I'm Jesus Christ. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little fucking crazy, but
On in this video, he remarks that his focus as of late has been to retroactively be more inclusive to marginalized groups he feels that he pushed away during his YouTube career, as if moping and self-flagellating would do anything to change that. Additionally, it's not as if he's doing this out of selflessness either. He's clearly doing it because it personally bothers him that his online following keeps giving him and Anisa crap, and he's desperate to secure himself a comfy
I don't think it's online following is giving him crap. I think that people are just giving him crap because they're tired of his shit.
Place in the outskirts of BreadTube, much like H3 had done when he cozied up to Hassan. To add a cherry on top, Ian claims that his newfound worldview is the result of him developing empathy, which is about...
It's so funny because iDubbbz is such an ingenuine person. I don't think that if he got to a point where he realized that Hassan was just using him, funny enough, it backfired on him, but Hassan was just using him. Even if he acknowledged that and started talking out against Hassan, nobody would really care meaningfully. Like Ethan, even in his bad moments, I don't think it's ever been necessarily a disingenuous person. Even if these had disingenuous moments, I mean, we all have. But like iDubbbz is, I don't even know if he's enough of a person.
As delusional as it gets. Not only does that imply that anyone who disagrees with him lacks empathy, it's interesting that all of his descriptions of his feeling empathy sound more like guilt, although for him, those two things may be indistinguishable. A couple of months after this dark episode, Ian goes for a quick second round of public humiliation as he joins with Francesca Ramsey to be educated. Honestly, these are the only people who get impressed by...
Yep, he sat here and he was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I spoke poorly of a black content creator who literally just watched videos with a face on and did no meaningful commentary. I know everybody else does the exact same thing now. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. Like, that's it.
What Ian is doing. Activists, whose entire life revolve around policing this kind of behavior. The average black person...
She called him racist for criticizing that one black creator like Minx or whatever, or Jinx, or... that literally just made voices, and like he just went, he just made faces. He looked like a fucking idiot. He's like, yeah, I was being racist when I was doing that. It's like, wow, that's incredible. We love the chat. We love the chastising here. We love it. We love to see it.
Most likely doesn't care either way about what the gay retard guy has been doing. It's at this point that Ian became...
Don't say that, please. Stop it.
...became such low-hanging fruit that even Sam Hyde completely backed away from targeting him.
Damn.
Ironically,
maybe Sam Hyde just doesn't want to, like, he feels like if he gives him anything right now, it would maybe potentially help him. Like, he doesn't want to do what he did back. Although I don't know if that's true. Maybe he's just bored of him.
One of the people Ian specifically apologized to, Tana Mojo, would also go on to address the recent developments.
Like, you know, him showing up to my show, him kind of putting me on blast, him inevitably making me kind of canceled and lose subscribers and have to apologize and all that type of stuff. I kind of think I'd like deserved that. I don't feel like I'm owed an apology.
Another previous victim of iDubbbz who came out of the woodwork was none other than the most high-profile content cop target, Leafy.
Oh my god, fucking guy's a hell of a guy, huh?
Who made tweets mocking him and suggesting that the two fight in Creator Clash 3.
Maybe that's something, man. Maybe you could work something out with that, huh? That could be something.
The thing is, no matter how much people have dunked on Ian, no one, and I mean no one, did more damage to Ian than himself. Well, apart from maybe Anisa, who seems to never get tired of adding to the public humiliation in whatever way she could.
I just want to ask him if you've always been shitting your pants.
No.
Because since I've known you, you've always had like IBS.
Wow.
You've always been shitting yourself.
Yeah, well.
To bring back a point...
He do be shitting himself, I guess.
From earlier in the video, people like Anisa tend to have the compulsion to reveal intimate and uncomfortable things, whether...
And like the least funny way, too. Because like I know that I overshare sometimes, but I like to think that I'm at least a little funny. And that when I overshare, you guys are like, oh, that's kind of silly, hee hee, you know? But she just talks to be... I think she just really says this stuff to be cruel. I don't even know if she says it to be, like, nice in any capacity. I think she's just saying it to be fucking cruel. Honestly, I don't think that she's well-meaning or mannered at all. Oh, fuck.
It's about themselves or other people. And here...
She just, like, disparages her fucking husband that she's supposed to love. Like, that's it. She just disparages the person that she's supposed to love. It's fucking crazy.
We can see it in full effect. This wouldn't be the last bout of embarrassing situations caused by...
He definitely made racist fried chicken jokes and did this black guy voice, even if Jinx was shit and he had other criticisms. Well, here's the thing, when I watched that video, that didn't really come up. It wasn't like, hey, you made a lot of really racist, maybe it did, but the central focus, like, maybe this is just what I remember, was that, like, she called him racist because he went after somebody that was doing reaction content, and the same reaction content everybody does nowadays. So like, I don't know. That's what the message I got. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I remember he like allowed himself to be fucking like, he didn't say like, yeah, I made a lot of racist jokes in that video, which were shitty. Maybe he did say that, but it was also like, oh yeah, just really criticizing him in general for doing reactions crazy because people do the same thing nowadays, and he wasn't doing anything different. It's like, yes, he was. He wasn't doing anything good. You know, the type of reactions that I do compared to that other guy are drastically different, right? Whether you like it or not, right? So.
Anisa in the year of 2023, as in November, Max Mofo, one of Ian's longtime friends, was getting married. But in the pictures, Ian was nowhere to be seen. Eventually, he made a passing
guys, he had to go attend his wife's tattoo.
Remark about it during a stream, saying he had important business to attend to in the States, so he traveled to Australia a month before to congratulate him. While it's impossible to know what this important business was that he had to be in the States for, it was later leaked through Anisa's Discord that the real reason Ian went to Australia was to get a tattoo. Now, there are a few things to say here.
Well, I thought that his wedding was in Australia. Oh, okay.
That the real reason...
Oh, wait, so that the tattoo was in Australia? Not the wedding? What the fuck?
And Ian went to Australia was to get a tattoo.
That's fucking crazy.
Now, there are a few things to say here. First off, there's the obvious, which many people have said, which is Joji, who is certifiably a more busy and famous person than Ian, managed to make it to Max's wedding, but Ian couldn't. That doesn't sound right. But beyond that, he could go to Australia for a tattoo, but he couldn't go to his friend's wedding. And lastly, why?
That is pretty fucked up.
After nearly 10 years, is Anisa still telling her Discord about her personal life, knowing that it will get leaked? And to make
that's actually an excellent question. You think she's doing it on purpose?
Matters worse, she's once again talking about Ian having IBS and pooping himself, specifically that she thinks she gave him food poisoning by improperly boiling her food.
Incredible.
I thought she was the nutrition specialist. How can you screw up
Dude, this is what she looks like now? That's fucking crazy. I don't know.
Boiling something. I don't know how, at this point, the issue of Anisa's need to...
I mean, I'm just saying my theory from earlier about how, like, you know, she went from very feminine looking to very masculine looking after she sexualized herself, kind of maybe goes along with the narrative that she hates that feminine aspect of her because she associates that with making porn out of herself, and so she starts to identify and look at herself more like this, you know?
Parasocially connect with strangers online hasn't been dealt with. It is potentially the root of every bad thing that's happened to them since 2019. But maybe that's why Ian thinks she's good at communicating. She's just yapping and exposing herself to anyone within listening range constantly, while Ian only speaks out when he needs to. Having learned nothing from the absolute catastrophe that
he only really needs to because of her, huh?
Was Creator Clash 2, in February 2025, Ian resurfaced to announce his third installment, and I almost shudder to say he somehow made it worse. Within the first couple minutes of the announcement, he says this.
The theory I had 3 years ago when trying to promote Creator Clash 1 is the same theory I have today. I think the single most important element of an influencer boxing event is the mystery component. Obviously, you gotta have, you know, popular influencers. Maybe it's important to have a little drama, a little beef. But what I think makes influencer boxing interesting at its core is the mystery. Who's gonna train, who's not gonna train, and what does their particular background contribute to the outcome of the fight?
What? The fuck is he talking about?
I'm genuinely trying not to be cynical, but mystery is not even in the top 10.
I don't understand what that means. I don't think anybody gives a fuck about that. I think that they just want to be entertained and hope the fighters fight for a long time. Maybe not a long time, but a meaningful amount of time.
And things that make an event of that kind sell. Maybe if you stretch the definition of the word to include anything that's even remotely unpredictable, but otherwise, people mostly dish out their money for things they know they want.
Yeah. Well, not for mystery boxes.
Mystery of whether some Minecraft YouTuber is going to train or not for his fight is not a very interesting one. You could
not at all.
You get a lot more butts in seats by giving people exactly what they expect. Like if you put a rage bait streamer like Jack Doherty in the ring to get his face blown to smithereens by a featherweight boxer jacked up on steroids. I guarantee there would be plenty of people splurging hand over fist for that. Partly, that's why people engage with boxing events involving Logan and Jake Paul. It's not that everyone is necessarily invested in their abilities as fighters. A lot of the time, they just want to see those guys get beat up. Even if they end up winning a match, it's worth it to see them getting some punishment. After opening the video on this buffoonery, Ian moves on to say that his efforts to put together a documentary about Creator Clash and promote the events have failed, and that he's now considering bugging the fighters more, which he hates doing. It really shows Ian is still not taking the time to see how other fighting promotions operate, because that's pretty much the only way a fight gets promoted, by the fighters themselves. I guarantee the crushing majority of people can't even name the big four boxing organizations, but they all know who Mike Tyson is. Maybe you know who Dana White is, but you're much more likely to know who Conor McGregor is. Here, Ian establishes that,
yeah, that rapist guy.
for the past two events, he has decidedly avoided having the fighters promote. It's like he's actively trying not to make money. Fortunately, he expresses he'll at least try to change that for the third event, which is
which he never did in more promotion.
Better than nothing. He also talked about the fundraiser live stream he ran after Creator Clash 2 failed, which apparently ended up raising $160,000 for charity.
It's crazy that they had this, it's crazy that they had this whole fucking charity boxing fundraiser after the event failed. And then they didn't go, oh wow, there might be something to this whole streaming thing. Maybe we should do something else with this whole streaming thing. You know, like, why the fuck, why wasn't that something in their head to go, oh shit, maybe we should do something else?
Again,
maybe we should do this more. Maybe we should figure out a way to work this into the typical strategy for Creator Clash.
Definitely walking in the direction of redeeming it. While Ian had been on his path, some of his former collaborators, Anything for Views and Max Mofo, had been busy with their show Cold Ones. They managed to run it without pissing off their fan base, and every episode would receive a very respectable viewership. As a result, for old time's sake, they decided to bring Ian on for an episode. It didn't go that well. He seemed extremely low energy in the video, hurting the overall entertainment value. And even if that hadn't been the case, it's likely that
he also looks blurrier. Weird.
Comment section would still be what it is, given how Ian had changed. It was so kind of you guys to bring on this freshly lobotomized boy. He almost acts like he's present and living in the moment. You guys are lucky he could fit you in between his wife's tattoo appointments. Bro looks like he's actually banned from having fun. But at this point, Ian had chosen to plunge himself into a crab bucket, and they were ready to pull him back down before he could crawl his way out. In this case, it was due to his past ties to H3H3. Ethan and iDubbbz were previously friends, being a part of
really just fair weather friends, guys. Were they really friends? Come on.
2016 YouTube culture with others like Anything for Views, Max Mofo, and of course, Filthy Frank. They would all collaborate a few times, but Ian and Ethan actually lived in the same state, making it pretty easy to get together and throw together a banger. And I do mean banger. They would do vlogs, a food review parody, they went shooting. It felt like they were genuine friends that got along. To this day, this
probably were.
Second most viewed video on the H3 channel is them sitting in Ethan's house making fun of Logan Paul. But since then, things have changed quite a bit. Ethan quit his main channel in favor of podcasting and has had his own series of controversies, many of which I've already made videos on. But perhaps the greatest would come from his ties to Hassan Piker, a controversial Twitch streamer that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In 2021, they started a podcast called Leftovers, mostly revolving around political issues. But eventually, the show fell apart as Ethan and Hassan's relationship crashed and burned. As far as I can tell, this was mostly over the fact that Ethan, who is Jewish and critical of Israel, but also married to Ela, who briefly served in the IDF, wasn't sufficiently pro-Palestine for Hassan and his audience's liking. After their
basically, yeah.
Final
that's the short end of the stick, we'll say. There's no reason to rehash it 1,000 times. We talk about it all the time, so.
Debate on the issue, it went on a hiatus. While they briefly remained on good terms,
it really boiled down to Hassan, for whatever reason, deciding not to defend Ethan from his audience and be like, hey, Ethan, I know that you mean well, even if I disagree with your stuff, I'm going to monitor my Discord or my Reddit instead of letting them call you a baby killer, because even though he doesn't think that Ethan's a baby killer, at least at that point. But he, despite the fact that Hassan will beg everyone else, like XQC, to monitor their chat when they see mean things about him. I mean, if you're friends, you would have done that.
As Ethan claims to not just want...
It's almost like he wants Ethan to get harassed, and he wants to pretend he can't do anything about it, which is probably the case. I mean, this is the guy who kept saying that the 2 Jewish people who were shot at that museum, it was in New York, it wasn't a false flag, guys. It wasn't a false flag, but it looked a lot like it. That's what he would consistently say, which is very clearly, to me, Hassan indicating that it is real. had those two Jewish people killed so that they could play victim. That's what he keeps. That is what a false flag would mean in this instance, that Israel set it up, which is obviously not true, but Hassan wants to dog whistle that.
To continue debating about it, but also donated $6,500 to Hassan's pro-Palestine charity, their fan base was largely behind further inflaming the discussion.
Only $6,500? You think, come on, dude, you got more than that.
Over the course of months, Hassan's fan base grew increasingly cynical and negative toward not only Ethan, but also specifically his wife, Ela, who used to be an IDF soldier. Meanwhile, Ethan's own audience defended him, reiterating his overall support for Palestine to counter-signal any accusations that he was a staunch Zionist. Eventually, this back and forth between their respective fan bases evolved into a back and forth between them, as Ethan began perceiving some people in Hassan's orbit as anti-Semitic and assumed Hassan either didn't mind or actively agreed with them. Ultimately, the brunt of their problems with each other are political, but you can basically summarize it by their positions. Ethan was left-leaning, but Hassan was a lot more leftist, and so was his fan base. And Ethan claims that only after cozying up to them did he realize the situation he had put himself in, having a large amount of his fan base be more radical. A few months after doing a stream addressing his problems with Hassan and his community, Ethan posted his content nuke on Hassan at the tail end of January 2025. Of course,
that was a beautiful thing, man. That was a good start of a beautiful year, guys. A beautiful, beautiful year. What will we do next year when we don't have this controversy to talk about, huh?
Of course, this was not taken kindly by Hassan's fan base, and about a month later,
we need someone else to meme themselves. Okay, we need more drama. That's funny.
Ethan returned to announce that, most likely in response to the content nuke, someone called CPS on Ethan and his family, trying to get his kids taken away from him, claiming that their kids were crawling around in and eating dog feces. In his video, Ethan shows a clip of these claims being made by YouTuber Bad Empanada, while Twitch streamer Denims, someone closely associated with Hassan, who shares much of her viewership with him, reacted and commented on the story.
Well, no, guys, she said that she only watches Hassan the way that she watches XQC. All right, sometimes she'll turn it on. So
he lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor. Something that is probably related to the fact,
and he doesn't even call it a woman shin. Isn't that fucked up?
That his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons.
Manchi?
So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just like covered in dog shit, and he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it.
Guys, is this true?
I don't know if they eat it.
Is this true, Chad?
Is it just from like contact with it with their hands or something?
Oh my God, Chad, is this true?
They contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life.
I've never heard of Giardia before in my entire fucking life, even though it's like one of the most popular fucking parasites. This guy is
Giardia from the dog shit.
Giardia.
How is it that like maybe once a week I look into what Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit. This is where Ethan tells a story about
terrible Giardia shit. Oh my God, guys. Oh my God. Guys, this is obviously true because an ugly person is saying it. An ugly deranged freak that moved to Argentina is saying it, so it's obviously true. Guys, chat, is this true? Oh my God, Ethan Kaka Klein. Oh my God.
His family getting Giardia?
We already have mold Mondays. Now we have shit Saturdays.
Also, this is not a joking matter, by the way. It can be very severe and deadly to small children. I mean, much like many other illnesses, it's very, very, very dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get.
Oh, fuck. I know. That's why you got to have baby-specific illnesses. You got to make sure if you're going to give your kid Giardia, you got to give them Giardia Jr. That's the only way to do it, guys. Giardia Jr.
There are lots of things that you can get as an adult. You're totally fine. You'll be
totally fine, guys.
A-okay. No problem. A child, a small infant that has no immune system, shouldn't be catching anything.
While she begins...
Oh my God. I mean, it's true, though, because like kids are so stupid. They can't catch shit. They're fucking dumb. Babies are so worthless. Like humans have the most worthless babies ever. You guys ever realize that? Like a fucking giraffe comes out and it's able to like stand up straight and like fucking shit and flush the toilet. But a human baby comes out and it can't even get off of its back. Like what the hell? What kind of evolutionary design was that? Should we have even survived the dinosaur era? Were we even alive during the dinosaur era? Who knows? Somebody might. But you know what? Maybe dinosaurs are real. Okay. I saw a turkey look just like a dinosaur. Walked the same way. Reminded me of Jurassic Park. But there was a dog there, so it was actually Jurassic Bark.
By asking if it's true and doesn't at any point
Chad,
formally endorse those statements, she proceeds to react to them.
No, she doesn't formally endorse it, but she doesn't fucking discredit the statement. So that to me is enough to be like to basically tell her chat that this is like a credible threat that they should take seriously, or at least indicate to them. So.
As if they were, leading much of her chat to follow along and outright say that someone should call CPS on Ethan. While Denims and Ethan were already at odds with each other, so she had every reason to be biased towards him as a person, this clearly crossed a line. There's a whole heap of insults you can throw at a person that don't imply they're committing crimes against kids and putting their lives in danger. Sure, she never told anyone to go call CPS on Ethan, but she did platform someone clearly making those claims, suggested that they were credible, and expressed little to no skepticism about it. To call this irresponsible would be an understatement, and you would think that these people who harp on the dangers of platforming and responsibility all day would be a little more careful with what they signal boost on their stream. Regardless,
well, I think I don't think it's unreasonable to say that that's what she wanted to happen. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that at all. Because I do think that I think that she was not careful for a reason, and I don't think that that's ridiculous to say.
Of whatever political issues these people may have with each other, the CPS thing was really the moment that all hell broke loose. 1 month after Ethan's video about it was posted, iDubbbz brought back Content Cop just to cover what was going on, with his specific focus being Ethan, whom Ian saw as having completely lost his mind as a consequence of his beef with Hassan. I wish I could build some.
It was so beautiful that this really changed the narrative for Ethan.
Gravitas up to his new Content Cop to hype it up as if it were some comeback. But to put it simply, this video can be summarized as Ian signaling that he is on Hassan's side. Most importantly, Denims is directly featured in Ian's video, which again is a questionable decision from Mr. Responsibility, Ian Johma. The stance Ian takes,
Mr. Empathy, you know. One of the twins to Mr. Rhetoric. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
Is that Ethan was going too far, purity testing all of his acquaintances to ensure none of them expressed even a smidgen of support for Hassan and his orbiters, which...
Well, why would they? Of course you would want that. Those people are fucking crazy freaks. What are you talking about?
Culminated in all of his former friends, including Ian, feeling alienated. But Ian goes above and beyond when he compares specifically supporting Denims with being friends with someone who your friend doesn't like. This would be a lot more applicable if this was about anyone else in Hassan's orbit, but in Denims' case, she was directly responsible for signal boosting claims that Ethan was being criminally negligent to his children, and seemingly no one took issue or expressed any problems with it. In his video, Ian severely downplays it, saying this.
Does he even talk about it? I don't even think he talks about it in the video. It wasn't until the next video that he starts talking about it. After he got called out, this looks like a fucking poo-poo boy.
People can have crash out moments. People can say things that they don't mean. People can say things because they want internet clout and it.
Guys, I'm just being an empathy man.
Attention. I don't know. I think they're both probably guilty of saying things that they don't mean for internet clout and attention. Right now, one's a little bit more fucking nasty to me.
Hey, that's what empathy's all about, baby. Agreeing with the people who agree with you. That's what empathy's all about, baby boy.
Woo! Than the other.
Even if Ethan is wrong on every other aspect of his approach, siding with Denims simply because she's being less nasty to him once again highlights what Ian's problem is. He did not suddenly develop empathy. He didn't get ruined by Anisa. He hasn't changed at all. In fact, he remains as he's always been, negligent, pursuing short-term convenience just as long as he maintains a hugbox community who will justify his behavior. Concrete proof of this is that you can watch Ian's whole video, and despite Denims appearing in it, there's no mention of the CPS incident, which is what Ethan pointed out in his response.
Yep, you'd think you at least bring that up. If you can't even meet the argument, you're probably a sussy little baka.
Almost as if he was avoiding talking about a topic, which would absolutely make one of the BreadTube streamers he was cozying up to look really bad. When Ian fired back...
But you guys don't understand. Anisa she's fucking 50% Lebanese-ish. She's 50% Lebanese-ish, because she's actually only 8%.
Back with the H3 content deputy, he claimed that Ethan's paranoia and lack of diligence with his claims made the situation much worse than it had to be.
His paranoia. I'm sure that's not going to drive him. I'm sure that didn't drive him nuts when you're constantly just insinuating that all of his fears and worries were unjustifiable because he's fucking crazy. Oh, your paranoia is catching up to you, man. You're so fucking paranoid, bro.
Alienated people who would have supported him during the CPS thing. However, at the same time, Ian remained steadfast in his defense of Denims, reinforcing that she never actively told anyone to call CPS. While that's technically true,
that is technically true, but she signal boosted the fuck out of it.
It's clear that her signal boost of Bad Empanada's claims was furthering a narrative that could have easily been the cause of the CPS call, even if she had nothing to do with it personally. In probably the most revolting,
she knows what she's doing.
Section of Ian's video.
And if you don't think that she knows what she's doing, you're admitting she's fucking stupid, so.
He suggests that it was Ethan and Hila's own fault that CPS was called, as they had discussed how their dogs had parasites that caused them to suffer from diarrhea. And
Coca Kleins, guys, Coca Kleins.
Their son was in the crawling stage at that point in time. If I were of iDubbbz's, shall we say, persuasion, what he's doing here precisely fits in the category of victim blaming, as Ian is claiming that if he didn't want anyone calling CPS, he shouldn't be talking about his dogs having diarrhea. This is, at best, a dishonest way to sidestep the issue that there was definitely some degree of malice behind Denims' clip, even if it was just irresponsibility. And everyone else involved, or any viewer, has every right and reason to dislike Ethan and antagonize him. But the facts that none of them had the ability to acknowledge that there absolutely was some deliberate and malicious buildup within their community to the false CPS call signals that this game was rigged from the start.
Well, nobody will even say it was a false CPS call. But they won't even say that it was unjustifiable. You know, what would they say? Like, oh, I didn't support that, but they won't say like, hey, obviously he treats his kids well. Then Ian fucking lived, like, he fucking has visited there before. He's been to the house. Like, you'd think you'd be able to be like, yeah, my friend probably doesn't do that. But he's a fucking baby.
As unlikable as many may find Ethan these days, it's clear they're playing dumb and simply don't want to hold one of their own accountable, just because she's one of their own. The worst irony of the video...
Well, I also think it's because... I think that it's because Anisa hates Ethan because she's pretending that she's fucking Lebanese in any meaningful capacity. And so she's like, iDubbbz attack! And then he's like a dog. He just starts shitting himself. And then people are like, wow, this guy's fucking weird. And then everybody likes the guy he was trying to shit on.
Is that Ian concludes his point with this.
Part of my criticisms of Ethan initially was the openness. I think it's a problem that you are that open, Ethan.
Well, you know I'm very open about everything. It's
Me when I go on podcasts and cry. Hey, you're too open.
Part of how I wanted to conduct myself and how I wanted to relate to the audience is to...
Guys, I'm 8% Lebanish. Lebanish.
Be open as possible about every fucking thing in my life.
It is not strictly a benefit to be as open as possible on your podcast.
This guy's wife.
Hey, guys. Me when I look like a little boy. I'm sure that there's somebody who wants to look at that. Bro, what the fuck?
Has been airing out their relationship issues and even detailing his bowel movements to anyone willing to listen online. And now he wants to make a problem out of Ethan's openness.
Maybe this is his way of telling Anisa that she's got to stop. Please, people are making fun of me for pee-pee myself. Bro, you know what's so funny though? That my wife yesterday, we were hanging out and I was tickling her. And she's like, you have to stop because I'm going to poop. And I kept tickling her. And then she got a little bit of mud on her cheeks, and that was kind of my fault there. But I thought it was so funny. Isn't that so silly? And then we were talking about it today, and she's like, "That was so silly. Like, if you did that, that was like, kind of upsetting." And I was like, no, honestly, I told her, I said that was kind of hot, I think. And she's like, "There's something fucking wrong with you." But she didn't say it in a way where she hated me. You know what I mean? She said it in a way where it's like, that's disgusting, but I still love you. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful relationship we have. You know, I could tell my wife all the weird shit that you know, and she still loves me for that. And that's true, beautiful love. And you know what? Maybe one day I can tickle her until she poops all over my balls. Just so you guys know, podcasts and live streaming really isn't for you to talk about all your private stuff. So, you know, if you do that, maybe you should tone it down a little bit and not admit the world to everybody, because that's really not what this type of content is for. You got to be a little more responsible with that. I don't know if you guys know that.
Same person live streamed his own therapy session where he actually cried while expressing he wished he had the relationship that Ethan and Hila have.
You know, I also see the dynamic of Ethan and Hila, and I'm like, fuck, like...
Guys, don't judge me in the chat, okay? You guys know that you're all fucking weirdos. That is beautiful. Thank you. You know what? Thank you so much, Joshi Slaps, for the honest commentary. You know, it is a beautiful sentiment. And if you guys were disgusted by poop, were you a child? Then you want to know what? It's because you guys aren't mature enough to really understand what a beautifully relationship defining moment this was, truly. And I think that that's on you guys for being so immature. So fucking immature. Yeah, please don't tell my wife I told that story. She would be probably fucking pissed off at me. Sorry.
Just really it's really hard.
It's really hard
to be
just like I was when my wife shit herself. I'm just fucking kidding. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to say that. It was funny to me. I'm my own biggest fan.
A couple online and see people attacking your partner, and it's like,
I still hate this doctor. He's such a disingenuous fuck. I reacted to that whole thing, and he was just such a fucking scumbag.
Okay, like if you come to their defense, that doesn't always help them, right? Sometimes that makes it worse for them.
This is a self-owned.
That's why I didn't want to come to you. But no, that's probably true because every single time iDubbbz comes to somebody's defense, it always there's always blows back on them or whatever.
And it's so devastating.
You're not kidding, dude. I'm always joking. Nothing I say is serious. Shut up.
I can hardly believe it's real. It sounds like I'm making it up and this clip is AI, but no, he did this. And that's without even getting into the possibility that maybe, just maybe, your actual wife posting nudes online for anyone to see might fall within the umbrella of unhealthy openness that invites negative attention from people online. Not to pass judgment here, but I don't think you can have credence to make an issue of other people's openness at that point. Imagine if the situation—
I mean, that is kind of based, yeah. Well, it's not even that he's just like, oh, maybe you guys are a little too— I mean, it's not even applicable because there's probably moments where Ethan is a little too open. You know, in a way that might be inappropriate, but like not, but that's not what they say. They don't say, hey, maybe sometimes you should be more, you know, careful about what you talk about. They're like blaming them for CPS getting called, which is fucking ridiculous. And they're just saying podcasts aren't a place where you share this type of information after that's like what they religiously do on their dog shit fucking podcast nobody watches. Like what? I'm pretty sure like Ethan's podcast is one of the most, I think it's in like the top 10 podcasts in like on Spotify rather. I was gonna say the world, but that might be the world. I don't know. It's like one of the top 10 podcasts on Spotify. Like they get like 500,000 views on YouTube per episode or to 1 million. That's just on YouTube alone. That's not even like any other platform. So it's like very strange for you to like try to coach them on shit like that.
Situation was that after Anisa worried about potentially having given Ian food poisoning, someone called the police and reported her for attempted murder. Or what if, back when she was airing out their relationship issues on Discord, someone made a video claiming Ian was an emotional abuser? Would that be justified? Or would that be considered targeted harassment? Again, Ian has been chronically using the word harassment to describe his detractors ever since the OnlyFans incident in 2020. So he has absolutely nowhere to stand when it comes to downplaying Ethan's situation. Did Ethan
top 10 YouTubers? I thought it was top 10 on Spotify.
Attract some of the hate he's gotten online by inviting his
maybe I'm wrong, but it is still a very popular podcast
on into his community? Yes. But most importantly, is Ethan being held to a double standard due to his political stance? Absolutely. And over time, the issue only festered.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. I could have swore I saw something on that. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Damn, Tucker Carlson is number 2. That's fucking crazy. Ray William Johnson has a true story podcast that's number 12. That's crazy. I wonder what that is. I wonder if it's just his TikToks.
People in Hassan's orbit doubled.
Either way, my point is he's still pretty popular, so shut the fuck up. I'm dumb.
Down on it. First, on the 8th of May, Denims made a tweet. Despite publicly acknowledging that I have never endorsed and even denounced calling CPS on Ethan, he has continued to spread this malicious lie. We should hold influential creators like this to the same standard we hold anyone else to. I'm going to—
Do you think if she didn't say that she was going to sue Ethan and then backtrack it, do you think Ethan wouldn't have wouldn't have decided to sue them sue them, you know?
Do my part. If Ethan Klein doesn't retract his lies about me, I will look into legal avenues and convince him that he should have. She also—
Wait a minute, but doesn't this kind of maybe show that they were the ones to be sue heavy first? Or no wait, oh no wait, Ethan, I think Ethan used I think Ethan, quote unquote, started it with Noah Sampson, right?
Continued to comment on the situation on her streams, where it was said that the Kleins were milking the CPS situation for sympathy.
I think it's embarrassing for Hila here to be like, this is so traumatic for the kids. You're trying to traumatize the children. It's like, dog, you literally, the vast majority of people are like, vast, are not remembering anything that happened to them.
Thank you, Dr. Tits. I always appreciate your insight.
At 3. It's just sympathy, right? It's just, she's just pulling like the IDF classic
Whoa,
card
what the hell is this?
Like,
what the fuck is that, Casey Tron?
Like, please, my life is so difficult.
Denims ran a GoFundMe.
Looking skin tea, am I right, guys? Body tea, am I right?
Page to try and raise $150,000 for her to sue Ethan. But a week after opening it, she had only raised $46,000.
Whoa.
And refunded the money and said she would be funding it herself due to the risks involved.
What the fuck just happened?
Meanwhile, Bad Empanada, the person who, as far as I know, was the originator of these claims, even if he didn't make the CPS call, said this in a stream with Hassan Piker.
If they feel bad, if they feel harassed, honestly, great. I don't give a fuck. Fuck them. Fuck each and every one of them. We need to be mean to these guys. We need to be assholes. They deserve it.
A little while later, Bad Empanada posted a video of himself pretending to call CPS on Ethan, which was reacted to by
I mean, maybe he really did, who knows?
Denims, who played along and sarcastically condemned the joke. For the record, I've criticized Ethan Klein many times in the past, and I may do it again in the future, but it is quite annoying to see these people go from sanctimonious sensitivity police to edgelords at the drop of a hat, just as long as it's about antagonizing someone they disagree with. Fortunately for
See, that's why you have to just be mean to everybody all the time.
Ian, he was only associating himself with people who do the tolerable kind of attacking others online. Since what
well, I think people are losing tolerance for it as time goes on. The optics meter is switching sides here.
Remained of his fan base all shared his ideology, his online presence was unaffected by this entire situation. What it wasn't affected by was that before it could even
Anisa and her wife being on financial audit would be fucking awesome. True.
Materialize, Creator Clash 3 fell apart, or at least Ian's involvement in it did. For context, most likely due to the Johma's continued association with the event and their continued infamy and involvement in online drama, people had already been dropping like flies for a while. All the way back in March, there were claims of people who attempted to refund their purchase of digital pre-orders and were having trouble doing so. But as the beef between Ian and H3 erupted in late April, Lena Ayad, the executive assistant of the H3 podcast, who was slated to fight in the third installment of Creator Clash, dropped out of the event.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't she? I mean, again, Ethan was like, the whole podcast was giving them there was like the only publicity that the Creator Clash would get was from like Ethan. Really, let's be fucking real. You know, they would talk about it on their thing, and they would signal boost it, and for whatever reason, iDubbbz and Anisa decided not to do a fucking podcast. I don't understand.
Apparently, this was due to it being demanded of her that she promote the event, which would directly benefit Ian, with whom she was at odds with as a consequence of his content cop. Clearly, the problem was Ian and his involvement in online drama. Ironically, the reason Ian pushed Sam and Froggy Fresh away from the event was fear that they would hurt its reputation, only for Ian to do it himself anyway. A couple of days later, the official Creator Clash 3 Twitter account notified that Ian and Anisa had fully stepped away from Creator Clash, relinquishing their ownership of the event altogether.
And then they got exposed for being silly little gooses on their contractual agreements. Would they own like a third of the profits?
Together. In this announcement, along with Lena, it was mentioned that Harley Morenstein, one of the most high-profile fighters in the event and a pretty decent boxer, also stepped away due to Ian's crash out and his association with Hassan.
I saw a clip of
but Hassan's so good, guys. What the fuck? Hassan's so good guy.
And I knew they were going to be doing a fundraiser with him, but his he was like, oh yeah, if you've ever said anything positive about Israel, you shouldn't be allowed to even be a dog catcher. You should be treated like a neo-Nazi. And I was like, hey, my family and friends and my community, that's so crazy. All of them? I don't know. But then like the conversation was really political, and because like I don't know if you guys caught the official Creator Clash fundraiser.
No.
Oh, they just did one with like Hassan, and it was him reacting to this video that Ethan made about him. So they're just like talking a lot about like
it's so funny listening to like Harley talk about this. I feel like this also probably shifted some of the narrative too, because I think that most people look at like people who are like maybe online, they look at what he's saying and they're just like, yeah, this is like kind of a normal take. Like, hey, I'm not going to get into the weeds and like try to fucking give you a complicated, comprehensive history of Hassan Parker. But like, yeah, man, he said some kind of shitty things, and like I really just didn't want to be associated with that. And it's such a normal way to look at things. I feel like for a lot of like normal people who maybe were, you know, hesitant to get, we'll say, you know, involved in some capacity or involved, even if it's not like publicly, but they were hesitant about like, you know, kind of having an opinion. They were like, oh yeah, this is like really fucking weird. I think that appeals to a lot of normal people.
Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas, and like, was there rapes and like, it's just all this, and I'm like, what's up with the boxing though?
Of course, as other fighters stepped away, the refund request spiked to the point where the management made an exception to its refund policy to accommodate it. The rest of May went by uneventfully for Creator Clash, until on the 29th, they posted a video on the official channel announcing that the new owners of the event were Elena Pierce and Aaron Hansen, who were already technically involved in the event's ownership since they co-owned Real Good Touring, with whom the Johmas were partnered since the very beginning. Parts of this video were good news, as Aaron mentioned that due to the rescheduling of the event to October, anyone who bought tickets to the previous event would
You think they're gonna have it on October 7th? Would that be fucked up?
Be refunded appropriately. This is a welcome announcement given people's justified concerns about refunds. Additionally, as Ian had spoken about before, they were running a charity fundraiser separately from Creator Clash to ensure that there would always be money going to charity. And at this point, they had already raised almost $250,000. But
well, they didn't really raise it. Hassan did.
In this video, there was the mention of Ian and Anisa's financial stake.
It's funny because you can really see that, like, I think that Tom's opinions would probably differ a little bit. You know, if he was still doing like the kind of slop drama commentary, and it seems like he's kind of retracted from having like a super strong opinion, because it kind of feels like as he's talking, he's not having super strong opinions and like a negatively about Hassan. He's just like, here are like more of the facts. I'm going to try not to give you too much of my opinion necessarily, especially on the very turbulent topic. So it's interesting.
Being dispersed.
It makes sense. It's not a bad thing for him to kind of detract himself, or, you know, disconnect himself from being too involved in all this stuff, you know?
First, to pay the fighters more. You may be asking, what financial stake? This is the first time we've heard about this. Well, if you go to the transparency page on the official Creator Clash website, in the last item of the FAQ, it's listed that on top of the flat rate that the fighters get, they would now get 20% of the net profits and an additional 34% of the total, which originally belonged to Ian and Anisa. This sent shockwaves through the internet, as people understood this to mean that Ian and Anisa were always taking over a third of the money for themselves from the previous events, including the one which failed to raise money for charity. Immediately, Ian took to Reddit and Twitter to explain himself, claiming that this 34% cut was not present in any of the previous events and would only apply to Creator Clash 3, although it never materialized since the event hasn't happened yet. First off, I'd like to once again remark that it's always Ian that pops his head up to take the damage to his reputation, despite him and Anisa being equally responsible for this situation.
Yeah, it sounds like a typical Anisa, no?
It's interesting how selective this equality.
It's funny that like iDubbbz, his whole relationship seems to be like he's just a dog for Anisa to just fucking blame for all the problems
between them is. When things get heated, miscommunication turns into a ghost. Secondly, I gotta say that it's convenient that this 34% cut wasn't mentioned in Ian's Creator Clash's back video, almost as
guys, they were actually going to donate it all. They were told they could donate it all. Somebody needed to tell them that, but they could donate it all.
As if he knew it would sound bad and opted against including it. Lastly, I understand they're the ones organizing the event, but so far, every attempt of theirs at promoting it has backfired and betrayed the entire purpose. So it's kind of insane to see they were still interested in getting over a third of the proceeds, despite them constantly bringing harm to the event and its reputation. Even if he wants to blame Sam and all the negative attention that whole thing brought to Creator Clash, who's the guy who went out of his way to personally make an inflammatory documentary about Sam Hyde in the first place? Ian. At the end of the day, it's always Ian. In early June, iDubbbz resurfaced on his YouTube channel to once again address the claims being made about his financial involvement with Creator Clash. One of the first issues he covers are the gala events from previous Creator Clash events.
Is that Mango?
Which he claims he believed helped promote the events, as it got a bunch of content creators together in one place, so he assumed they would post it to social media one day before the event happened.
You get a bunch of creators to show up to a fucking hotel the night before their fight, and they're going to post about it on social media, and the internet will be abuzz. And the event was successful, so we thought that that strategy of having, you know, a little hubbub, a little hullabaloo before the event and after the event was a good idea. So we ran with that strategy again, hoping that creators will post about it and be excited.
Hoping, guys. How crazy. Hey guys, we're gonna do this whole charity boxing event. We hope that the creators will post about it. We're really hopeful. Why would you be hopeful? Why wouldn't you have made that part of the strategy? It's just so fucking stupid.
About it and buzz will be generated, but it didn't happen. Or maybe it did happen, but it just didn't sell tickets.
Yeah, not really convincing, especially since there were also post-fight events according to Ian himself. Even if this was fully the intention, it's a stupid idea given that the party taking place literally the day before the event would give, what, 1 day for people to hypothetically see it online and purchase the tickets?
Yeah, it's bullshit. They wanted to throw a fucking... They wanted to throw a party and then justify with dumb bullshit being said. It makes no fucking sense.
And what is the expectation?
They wanted to have a cool Diddy party.
That those people will then purchase extremely expensive same-day plane tickets to fly to Tampa?
Where's the Eddie Fresh hat? Dude, I'm wearing a Bulbasaur hat because I'm wearing a Bulbasaur shirt. Eddie Fresh? Got it, dude. Here it is. Boom, dude. Boom. Where we go, dude? Doesn't really fit my head too well. I have a big fat head. Personally, I just have a very large head, but hey. There you go, baby. There it is, dude. I'm a hot mommy. My wife will probably wear this when she gets fucking pregnant. After I impregnate. I'm just not going to say anything else because I feel like I say crude shit. So if I elaborate on that, my wife will probably be mad at me.
It's just insane. In the same breath, he expresses he opted for having the gala events over having people do face-offs where they slap each other or engage in fake drama.
You either got to force...
Because he's just such a good guy. You don't understand. He's just such a good guy. Yeah, I didn't want to do any of the fake shit. So I just decided that we're going to do nothing. We're not going to do like a real podcast or anything. We're just going to do nothing. This makes me a cool guy.
People to post about it, or you have to fucking I don't know, not do it. You gotta make sure that people are slapping each other during the weigh-in. That's probably what I'd change it to, because it's cheaper, you know? It's a lot cheaper if people slap each other during the weigh-in. I just wasn't about that. I was just like, I don't want this fake drama shit.
The thing is, completely fake drama like WWE rivalries between John Cena and The Rock are fun. They're like movies. You know it's all scripted.
You don't have to even do that. It's not like they said we don't want to do some fake drama, so what we're going to do instead is we're gonna like get to know the fighters and blah 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 blah. They did nothing. They just did nothing. He's morally grandstanding once again, pretending that he's above it all. He's gonna do it better. He's a really good guy. Just as a way of moral superiority. But like, it's not real. Like, he's a fucking scumbag loser. They just were lazy and did nothing. There was no alternative strategy. They're fucking losers.
But they're entertaining nonetheless. What's absolutely not entertaining and not going to help promote your event is real drama where you go over Israel versus Palestine. Later on in the video, Ian claimed that ultimately he would donate his 34% cut to charity anyway, but acknowledges no one will believe this. The thing is...
Well, because he said that he was... That's the fucking funniest part, is that he said he was told he could have donated it. He did, from what I'm pretty sure that's what he said, from what I remember. He was like, I was told that I could donate it if I wanted to. And then it's like, what do you mean? Why would you need to be told that? It's just like weird. Wait, I don't believe it at all. Especially since they're talking about how they had to worry about the fucking investors too, but then it didn't seem like there were any investors. So. Because they had to worry about the investors through their own 34% profit share. It made no sense. Nothing they said made any sense.
There's nothing wrong with him making money from the event per se. The general public isn't Hassan. No one has any issue with people making profit off of things they put together. I'm sure Aaron and Elena will end up profiting off of Creator Clash 3 if the event goes well, and there's no problem with that. I actually hope the event does well, and I don't care if they just keep their cut. The problem is, this cut was undisclosed by Ian and Anisa, and was only revealed later by Elena and Aaron, who did so with absolutely no ill intent towards the Johmas, and only to be transparent with the public. Ian and Anisa could have done this, but didn't, and although Ian is willing to come out and admit he sucks at communication and is at fault for these mistakes...
Hey guys, if you're constantly telling us that you're bad at communication, like, at what point do we just be like, oh, you're just making an excuse? Hey guys, I made my 50th mistake. I'm so sorry that I'm bad at not making mistakes. Oh, okay. This is definitely genuine and not just an excuse for bad behavior, guys. Hey, chat, is this just excuse for bad behavior?
There's always a person who is conspicuously missing from the picture. I would like to get into the rest of the content of the video, but it can be sufficiently summarized by 1. Ian complaining about concern trolling, 2. Referring to Anita Sarkeesian of all people as an authority on the subject, 3. Making fun of himself for being a white guy who took years to realize how right she was, and 4. Making fun of Tim Pool. Doesn't matter.
Got him.
Not really.
To my surprise, the scholar on this topic is Anita Sarkeesian.
Ooh, the scholar.
Yeah,
Anita.
it's been almost a decade since like the gamer
Is Sarkeesian a Jewish name?
gate time, and go figure.
Maybe more anti-Semitism? I don't know.
The white guy 8 years later is like,
the white guy.
Sarkeesian was kind of onto something. There's a lot of assholes on the internet, and they're kind of misogynistic.
Yeah, your wife's asshole is one of them. I mean, I would hope. Because if she's not really showing anything, maybe that's why her OnlyFans is a failure.
Too, I think.
Because there's so many girls that are like, oh, I'm just going to show underwear pics. Like, okay, boring.
It's crazy what a little CTE or the love of a woman will do to you.
Ultimately, Ian got what he wanted. He lost it all to ingratiate himself with bread tubers, to sate
Oh, it's Armenian? Oh, okay.
his craving for punishment, his guilt for telling offensive jokes a decade ago. The thing is, Ethan, who now is his sworn enemy, did the same thing. He restructured his entire presence to join the margins of political streamers. And what did he get for that? I wonder if Ian is naive enough to expect him to stay in their good graces forever. I won't actively wish it upon him, but even Anisa could turn on him if the circumstances are favorable enough. I think admonishing him at this point is completely useless. He's not going to do a—
Well, I think that maybe there's an aspect to this where like iDubbbz is a utter failure in his ability to stay relevant, and Ethan's not, and maybe iDubbbz and Anisa were like jealous of that, and so they kind of like almost split. But they cut Ethan off, thinking maybe Ethan would cut them off because they're not successful or something anymore. I don't know. I maybe I'm just fucking rambling. I don't know, but they definitely for fucking self-conscious about it.
180
They're fucking useless
and become based, even if his wife leaves him and his newfound community turns on him. This is who he chose to become. It's dumb to blame Anisa or anyone else for what's happening. Ian voluntarily chose this for himself, and at the end of the day, everyone has to respect the rule he has decided to subject himself to. The only question is, if the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule?
Oh, that's warning.
I've been Turkey Tom. Thanks for watching, and until next time,
Survivor.
leave me alone.
Whoa, that's an epic, what's the guy called? The Critical Drinker. Critical Stinkers, more like it, am I right, guys? Good video, man. And iDubbbz is a stinky little boy. And that's all I have to say. Bye.